Glowing green. I always like it when things glow green.
If it
Do I have
glows green for more than
anything?
4 hours, you should consult a doctor.
I think if you're glowing green for any period of time, you really should consult a doctor just in general. I feel like there's no real time limit on that one.
Mm.
So, gentlemen, here we are.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
It is Friday once more. Means it's time for more shitty fanfiction.
I thought you were going to take a look at Wild Bow's newest, whatever disaster that is.
Yeah, but we need Phoenix for that, so yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So, as far as the week goes, honestly, I don't have any funny stories to tell. Or if I did, I don't remember them right now. So, that's that.
Oh, you started pre-drinking.
Yeah. As one does.
Then the selection must be especially bad tonight.
Probably. Probably. You never know. Spin the wheel, as they say. And find out.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Oh, well, we're going, Jesus can't help you.
Where we're going, they need Jesus.
Probably. But I don't want Jesus anywhere near them.
What? Why the hell am I still hearing the Discord spooky noise? It's fucking November.
Oh,
Update
I'm
your
sorry.
shit.
Would you prefer Mariah Carey?
No, I'd rather Padoru Padoru.
It
Fair
is
enough.
time for Mariah Carey and Padoru Padoru.
Well, those are certainly
That's
pictures.
that's something I really hope Discord doesn't try to implement one year.
What, Mariah Carey?
Yeah, just private calls are now just the tune of All I Want for Christmas.
Oh god, that's your ringtone. It's forced. You can't turn it off. She paid to have it done.
For added noise, it goes into effect.
Nah, I'm guessing
November
that once you
1st.
join a Discord call, it would do it as like Santa going ho 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 or Jingle Bells or something like that.
It'd be bells. Yeah, no, it'd definitely be Jingle Bells. Oh. Oh, Phoenix showed up
Yes, yes, we
with
did.
a little bit of an offering from Wild Bow.
Oh no. Oh, this is a Wild Bow on Reddit.
Please no.
Oh, this is gonna
Please
be.
no.
This is gonna be like
Please no.
twice as
Not Wild
awful.
Bow. Not Wild Bow 2 weeks in a row, please.
Wild Bow on Reddit.
Torture
Oh
cast.
god. Oh no.
Protect your kids. A lot of my inspiration for practitioner society was seeing rich and wealthy folks who had captains at the same lake as my family, because we are not wealthy, and our family friend has a cabin. One of the richer families at the lake that had multiple cabins and had a private jet for each parent and kid. We had some minor celebrities show up, people you see on the TV in the 90s. This is all very Canadian. Very Canadian.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Brought as friends of given family, joining the communal barbecue. Everyone in the lake getting together. There's an element to it where families with that kind of wealth and power just drag behind the times. Because there's no reason to change. Not really. It's more they got successful doing that. Why would they change?
Why am I getting a
Yeah.
hint of Canadian communism from this fucking post?
Because it
Well,
reeks of communism.
because it's Canadian.
True.
I still don't. It's just odd that people look at the old ideas of family structure like, oh, that's bad. It's like, no.
Yeah, they
Family
hold on to
structure is not bad.
antiquated ideas like family structure.
Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with
Yeah.
old family structure. The only problem is how much abuse was kept hidden
What are you talking
in an
about?
attempt
You've got to
to
have.
in an attempt to trick the public perception that you had the ideal family structure. Like,
What are you talking about? The new best thing
oh,
is to sleep with 100 people and then have 18 kids with different fathers or mothers.
Yeah. They have, and yeah, for sure, it was used to disguise abuse, and abuse was
yeah.
rampant. And I do think that some people's attitudes get warped when you have a patriarch or matriarch holding the purse strings. Okay, as someone who's lived in a household that had the main breadwinner be a man and a household that had the main breadwinner be a woman, I can pretty firmly say that the matriarchal household was significantly worse in every aspect. Every aspect. And so people cater to them. And again, yeah, this person has all the money, so people cater to their whims. Yes, that's how it works. You see, back in the day,
That's how
they had the
civilization is
biggest
currently working.
house and the most fields and the most food. And because they had a lot of food, they could pay other people to beat you up with the food if you didn't do what they said. So
I mean,
you did what they said, and then you got some food from them, and now you have food, they have food, the guards have food, so you stick around and harvest more food for them, and then you get paid more food, and then you have more food, and then more people show up, and they want more food, so you need to grow more food, so you expand the lands and fight people for more food, and then you have more food, and then you have more people, and then you have more food. You see where I'm going with this?
yeah, and that's even how civilization is today, with big businesses having all the money, having all the power.
Yeah. It's just like people. I guess this is getting political, but it's like people for some reason forget that humans have existed for 100K something years. There's like 150K something years we existed so far. We've been finding records of 150K years. So the amount of time that having power that isn't derived out of food compared to the time period that it was derived from having food. We're talking like a second on the timeline. A half a second on the timeline. I'm sorry, but how much shit changes in your day at a half a second pace?
Mm.
You know? It took you a whole minute to get out of bed, and you're sitting here complaining that the half a second isn't changing things faster?
Mm.
Oh. And then on top of that, the time of humans just period have existed compared to the rest of the planet. We've existed for like 3 seconds. Again, we're very fucking small in the grand scale of things.
And yet our development is moving very, very fucking fast, just not fast enough for some.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, but yeah, anyway. Yeah, so, wow, people abuse their kids. Yeah. So what happens is you have intelligent people, they do intelligent things, and they move on with their intelligent lives, and they kind of accidentally, semi-purposefully drag everyone else up with them. And what that does is eventually it puts unintelligent people into positions of power where intelligence is required. And what that does is it causes those people to find alternative solutions. And what that is force. Because intelligent people can figure out how to use words and soft power to get what they want from people, whether that's your kid, your neighbor, or, your king. Dumb people have to use hard power, where they raise their fist, open their hand, get their knife, etc. They have to focus on the less sophisticated forms of power because they literally too stupid to do anything else.
Well, no, sometimes you do get a smart person having to resort to hard power because they're dealing with people who are too stupid to understand soft power.
Well, yes, certainly, but I'm more talking about in the context of a parent raising their child.
I was more talking about kings.
Yeah, no, we're talking about parent raising their child in this context here, because they're complaining that all these old families do things like have patriarchs who beat their kids for disobeying, and it's like, well, yes, they beat their kids for disobeying because they're too stupid to figure out how to communicate with the child. Now, I am not saying
Sometimes that kid
current
just
society.
needs to be smacked.
Oh, well, yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying current society somehow has beat them out on this, because now the kids, if you don't have any fear of hard power, soft power means nothing. That's just how it is. Teddy Roosevelt speak softly, carry a big stick. I'm going to say, play nice. You're going to look at the gun on my waist and go, oh, yeah, I think I will do that. Because of the implication.
Alright, I just texted to on stream, biggest mistake I've ever made.
You just what the who now?
I just checked into on stream.
Oh, yeah, well, how's the cat boy doing?
Getting head pats with his normal fucking voice as a Shonen VTuber. Weird as
Oh
fuck.
no.
To be fair, he sounds like a manlet, so
He does.
yeah, I mean, it's not like he's got some sort of like deep voice or something that's like, okay, this is kind of weird that you're playing as a kid, getting a head pat as a cat boy, femgirl shit. And no,
His voice sounds squashed, so you can tell he's only 5'4".
yeah, bro sounds like he's 5'4". Like, it's really impressive.
What about me? Because I'm the same fucking size.
No.
You don't sound
thank
5'4".
fuck. Thank fuck. Do I at least sound alcoholic?
Yes.
No, what you sound like is you do sound like a manlet, but you sound like the short Irish guy who's gonna punch something.
Fuck.
A short
McGregor?
king.
Anyway, now that I've had him distracted. But anyway, point being though is that, yeah, so parents beat their kids because they don't know how to communicate with their kid. And they also don't have they're part of the communication with the child is setting up a line with the child of like, all right, this is the part where I talk to you, and this is the line, and this is the part where, shit gets real for you. And part of that is you actually have to stick to the shit gets real thing. Oh my god. I have seen so many new families be like, oh, don't do that or I'll take the iPad away, and then the kid does it, and then they just go, well, if you do it again, I'll take the iPad away. And then the kid does it again, and they're like, well, you really shouldn't be doing this, Jimmy. You know why the kid keeps doing it?
No.
It's because he knows you won't take the iPad away.
No. After
he-
that first one, my mama would have jerked my ass up, and that would have been that.
That's the point that's being made here.
Yes.
Is that there's no actual discipline.
Mm.
Because people can't separate discipline from abuse.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like that. It's, the parents obviously also have a tough time figuring out what's discipline and what's abuse. Because, again, not intelligent enough. They don't dedicate enough brain power to it.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
Or
to
again,
be
how
fair,
far
it's
to
not
go
just
with
it's
it.
not just the parents. There's also the kids where they have the single minor inconvenience and it's abuse by their parents.
well, that's just kids. Hi, Burple.
Mm.
Hey, Bolt.
They're rating with a party of 5.
Oh,
Roll for
shit. Hey,
initiative.
wait, is Arn rating us? Is that what's going
Yeah.
on here?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
No.
Roll for initiative.
Oh, fuck. Oh, here we go. Okay, let me get the wild bow. Let me get the
Oh,
wild
no.
bow picture up. Okay, so we're all gonna have to look at this now, and we're gonna look at a
Of his-
Reddit opinion.
Oh,
No.
man.
Phoenix also posted his diaper fetish character.
Wow, that
God.
what the fuck? Wow, that really is just wow. That
Yeah.
is frankly disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the point of it is to be disturbing, good job.
No, the point of
I
it.
see-
I don't think that was. I don't
No.
think that's the point.
Yeah, no, you see, that character's supposed to represent the freedom that the person now has to pursue their physical cosmetic dreams in this new society. Note that
Which
the child
is-
is not even an hour old. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Which is wearing a diaper and having wings like those fucking creepy, weird goose fucking things that.
Here's a
Japan
good
has.
question: is being too hard on a kid worse than being too soft? No. I
No.
think if you had to compare it, you know
No,
what generation? You know what generation had parents who were too hard on their kids? The silent generation.
Mm.
honestly, I think that probably helped the silent generation be a lot better about measuring out discipline
Yeah,
than the previous generation, and then the generation that the silent
Yeah.
generation raised.
yeah. That's kind of my point.
What's that saying, Sneaky, that you loved spouting at me a few years ago? Because you're sick of the cycle. Hard times creating good people.
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe?
Hard
Yeah, hard
times
times-
create strong men.
Strong
Strong men
men.
create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times.
And it's never been
So-
proven wrong, that cycle.
It-
Nope.
It may cause more trauma to be too hard on kid versus too soft, but that kid will probably grow up to be a better parent than the one who was too soft.
Who is before
Not to
the
say there
silent
aren't
gen-
some who continue the cycle of abuse, but you know.
The GI generation. I'm sorry. That was also the other example. There's the GI generation. So there's the silent and there's the GI generation. Those two generations had parents who were way too hard on their kids. You know, because like I do a lot of history shit, right? I love history shit.
Yep.
There's a lot of stories of these people from World War II, of like these rough and tumble boys, who went on to become, god tier heroes in terms of pulling absolute shit out of their ass to win the day.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, well, what was their childhood like? Oh, well, they started working a job at the age of 4. They were beat every day. They had 5 different jobs, plus working on the farm, 3 hobbies, and going to school. It's like, okay. Clearly, being too hard on a child did not produce an inferior result.
It didn't produce a potentially sane result, but it wasn't inferior.
Yeah, exactly. Now, did that make them good parents? I mean, they created the baby boomers and Gen X. So, you know, but what it is that being too soft on a kid creates Zoomers, Alpha, and Millennials, and it's ruinous. We can clearly see it is ruinous.
Oh, I was a living example of that with my own mother. She was way too soft. And then once I actually finally got away from her and moved out and her gambling fucking addiction, I really fucking started stepping up and being better. Because
Yeah.
reality hit me in the face. Of
Yeah,
what
exactly, right. Yeah.
That shit.
As it tends to do.
Except for that, most people, reality doesn't hit them in the face because they stay delusional rather than, and being in denial rather than accepting weight. So this is how the world's like.
I mean, you
Well,
know
no,
what
it
really...
hits them, they just keep denying it.
Well, yes, because they never had to face consequences. And by the time they are facing consequences, they don't want to. But no, I saw that so fucking hard when I was in college. Is my generation could not handle someone regimenting their lives. Someone not regimenting their lives. So many fucking kids instantly. I don't know if you saw this as well, Max, but so many fucking kids, and I call them kids because even though they were the same age as me, they were fucking children. They had no ability to wake up on time, no ability to go to class on time, no ability to do their fucking work, no ability to do literally anything. They were drinking and partying and having a shit ton of sex, doing drugs, getting arrested, getting thrown out of college, wasting all of their money on buying cosmetic shit.
Yep, it's like that meme I saw where people were like, we're living our best lives just because you guys didn't, and then someone just slapped back. Our TV had to ask our parents, do you know where your kids are at like 11 p.m. at night for people under 10?
Yeah.
Which is also which is also that they were too soft on them there because they let them fucking do that sort of shit.
It's this thing where when you're given a sudden overdose of freedom you've never had before, you go crazy in some way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had that period for the first 6 months of my college experience. Buckled down second semester, and then the next 2.5 years of college were a depressive funk caused partially by my ADD medication, which we realized way after the fact, and having to deal with that aforementioned. So the inheritance came around, and I saw sides of the extended family I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Yay, depression. It's not fun.
Yeah.
I see why people hate it.
Yeah, well, you just gotta keep moving.
Just don't be sad. Tell your brain stop being sad.
Yeah, look at your brain sternly in its eyes and go, brain, enough.
Stop being sad, or no more happy alcohol
That's what the gross amounts of video game playing were for. They were the distraction.
Yeah.
But anyway, so... is beating kids bad? Yes, obviously. Sometimes the kid does need to be fucking hit, though, but the best part is you need to explain why. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, there's a reason why usually you hit below the belt.
Yeah.
There's a reason why smacking and spanking has been a thing that has shown to work as discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also important that you never do it while you're angry, because the kid will pick up on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking back at the times I can remember getting a whooping, it was never in the heat of the moment. It's like, go wait in your room. And as an adult, I'm like, oh, that was them making sure that they were calm when they came to discipline me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got that consideration? No.
Yeah, Sign, you turned out so well.
Yeah, Sign, you turned out so well.
Sign, it's not my fault that you grew up in an abusive household, okay?
I wouldn't call it abusive.
You're right, Fawn, and not all of it with adults.
I think the fact that you think, I think the fact that you sit there and act surprised that discipline can and should be handed out with a calm head says all it needs to.
Meanwhile, in my household, my stepmother would purposely rile my father up before he lays a punishment on me. Good times.
Was this before or after her supposed conversion to Catholicism?
No, she was always a Catholic. She was raised Catholic.
Oh,
She converted
that explains
to
some of it.
enlightened Catholic Buddhism later in her life.
The fuck does that mean? That's
I
not a
mean,
thing.
it means she went to India and found her chakras were misaligned and got them aligned with the power of healing crystals, and now is a higher thinking being.
Yes, of course.
Yes, obviously.
Right. Did she ever get her bounded field fixed?
No, that's still broken.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Um, but yeah. So anyway, point being though is, if the kid doesn't know why you're hitting them or why you're punishing them, they're just gonna become a fucking belligerent shitheel themselves. That always pissed me off as a child, where it'd be like, well, why am I being punished for this? Because I'm the adult and I said so. Okay, so power equals authority equals I can abuse it however I want. Got it. Thank you for teaching me this lesson. That's how it fucking is. Hello, May. Hello. You know, that's how it fucking is. It's like, if you don't fucking teach the lesson, the kid is going to invent one. And it's not going to be the lesson you want them to learn. But anyway, let's see here. Blah blah blah. If you think about if you think about how they are so many stories of I thought I knew my family and then someone died and inheritance with a bit of money came into things and everything changed. Yeah. Um yeah, that's because you all lied to each other. I don't. Pretty simple. Um
Yeah.
Everyone's
Gonna be
building up
interesting inheritance
lies.
time.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting when inheritance time comes for you, Sneaky, however decades that is down the road.
Well,
And
I
nothing
really
will
want.
change for you because you're still gonna look at the people you just like, yeah, fuck you, I'm getting mine.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're, we're
If there's
not
any
we're not
inheritance
I'm not
left.
signing any agreements.
Yeah.
Uh,
If,
yeah, there is that slight problem.
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't have an extended family really. Um, and I'm probably not gonna end up with any of the inheritance. Because it's, you know, in true family fashion, it's gonna go to everyone but me. Because reasons. Let's see here. It's a constant for some families. In this scenario of Alexander with one being with concentrated power and privilege handing it out. Again, that's just a really distorted view. Yeah, the father typically has concentrated power because he's bigger and tougher and brings home the food.
Sometimes, you know,
I mean, yeah, he can be meaner, but it's just like,
it's a traditional family structure. That's plain and simple.
yeah.
That's what it is.
So you pick the
It
big mean tough guy who can
it
bring home food because he's a big mean tough guy who can bring home food and defend the family to keep the food. So that's why you pick the big tough guy. That's, it makes fucking sense. No, don't worry, there'll be no charities from my family. My family does not do charities.
really.
No, they do not
I'm
do
legitimately
charities.
I'm I'm actually legitimately surprised at that.
How 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 are you surprised by that?
Because the way you described your family, I would have bet at least $50 that a certain sibling of yours would have tried to convince your mother to throw half her savings into a charity due to
No, she's been
certain
trying. She used to
buzzword.
do that. You know, she used to do that with all of her leftist crap. Yeah. No, she
Yeah, no,
used to
I
do that.
thought she would have succeeded. I thought she would have
They don't do it
succeeded.
as a tax write-off.
They do it as a tax write-off, but only up until it becomes not a tax write-off. Because there is a maximum amount of money you can donate it to a charity as a tax write-off, and that's how much was given. So it wasn't given because it was a charity. It was given to pay less money. But I mean, my stepmother's very generous with my father's money, but I don't know if you can call that a charity, charitable person, because she's not spending her money. Everyone's
Okay, then.
far more charitable with other people's money. I feel like we can bring up the Belagar family structure, the Belanger family structure, and laugh at
I'm
it
I'm
because
gonna say
it's
that's
like,
like Bellinger, I wanna say. I'm not sure.
because it's this
Do you know
30,
of any
40-year-old
family with that?
hag that gets angry. The extended family looks down on her and assumes because she's a woman. Oh, the cat lady structure. Yeah. Um. Well, I mean, that's just women. And we've been seeing that excuse for literally ever. Oh, you mock me for something. It's because I'm a woman. No, it's because you're doing something wrong. You just don't want to admit that you're doing something wrong. So you change the reason why everyone's mocking you in your head, so you can feel better about yourself. Because then you, God forbid, someone ever admits they're fucking wrong about something.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Looked at the family because he's charismatic and built connections. Yeah, so let's see some snippets here from his newer chapters. Let's see Katie progressed, cable hanging upside down off of, workers removing panels, blah blah blah. Okay, so they're sneaking around service tunnels. Okay. What the fuck? Wait, what do you mean tail near her head? She was giving birth? Wait, huh? Okay, you're giving birth. You decided to break into a service tunnel to give birth? Okay. See through her eyes. The baby in amniotic fluid. Giving birth was the way to put it. The baby had shifted, and the membranes that suspended her were drained of enough nutrients, so they thinned out, tearing. Good timing. Automated and planned. Okay. The capsule was plugged into her chest cavity, anchored to her spine. He could track her. So she breaks into some fucking electronical service tunnel, and she decides that I'm just gonna randomly dump a bunch of fluid into this electronic service tunnel.
No. It's worse than that because she broke in there knowing she had the baby delivery scheduled for that time that was automated, and she could have just, waited.
No, she broke in there knowing that the baby was going to come in that moment.
Yes.
Specifically, broke in there to do it.
Ah.
So, yeah. I just, okay. Alright. Sure. Anchored to the spine. Jesus Christ. Okay. plot his navigation up the surface so they wouldn't trigger some of the measures to catch debris. Okay. They were high enough. Nudge. Okay. Air capacity. Okay. So she misted the entire area. They triggered an alert with it. This is being restricted space. Projected possible no. And they laughed as they. Okay, so they purposely break into an area. They trigger all of the alerts, damaging the equipment in the area, and they think it's funny. Wait. Is the That's the character that's doing it. Okay, that's the art because yeah, they're on the pole. They're Man, Wildbow just can't stop himself, can he? He made a black character in the far future where there was effectively gay space communism, and there's he still has them break in and destroy property.
Wild Bow is as Wild Bow does.
Gee. Oh my god. Wow. I I'm just impressed. The art is the child that grew up. Okay. Okay. So the okay. Well, I suppose that's a little bit better. So, we have a race unconfirmed person breaking into a sensitive, restricted area specifically so they can spray all of the electronics, the delicate electronics in the area, with fluids intentionally because it's funny. Okay? Not sure if we're supposed to feel any sympathy or support for these characters, but I'm already hoping they get hit by a space bus.
Sneaky, you know you're supposed to feel empathy, sympathy, and support for them because they're main characters. Wild Bow wrote them, so obviously they're in the right, whatever
Right,
they're
of
doing.
course, my bad. And these are also the good guys because Wildbow only writes good characters.
Yes, they're good guys, so you should laugh along.
Yes, of course.
This could be actually kind of interesting as an almost like Drukari-esque augmentating a child no matter the costs because this is the only way to keep them alive, and also society has completely normalized even infant augmentation. But
it's not the only way to keep them alive. It's the only way to protect the delicate sensibilities of the culture they're being raised in.
Which that could be an interesting story, but I think at that point you'd have to show the catch to that kind of augmentation, and I think you'd also have to make it very clear that this wasn't just an elective cosmetic surgery with body modification gone too far, because I don't think he's capable of writing those themes considering his stance on certain political issues.
He absolutely isn't. For you to properly display this sort of narrative, you would absolutely need to write it with the intention of describing how it is alignment evil. because it is literally all of the worst sins.
Actually, Sneaky, let me ping you real quick in the chat, because
Yeah.
again, this isn't a no word. I just don't know if it can be discussed.
I mean,
This
I'm sure we've
almost
already probably
be
passed that point, but yeah, go ahead.
metaphor for
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Hmm.
think we can bring. Yeah, I don't think we can bring that up. We're not popular enough for that.
Yeah, no, that's why I typed it. I'm just saying that I read that almost as if it was, even if you
Yeah.
didn't intend it to be.
Yeah, it's very interesting how Wildbow has decided to handle Utopia. It's very disturbing. Again, the sci-fi setting basically has given him the ultimate freedom to write whatever derangement goes on in his mind because he's able to hand wave away the resource costs by saying it's future tech. And what that resulted in is, frankly, some really worrying stuff. Like going beyond just genetically modifying the baby, they genetically modify the baby and then brutally butcher the baby once it's born so they can slap augmentations on it. It
And
kind of
it seems like
baffles me.
the father mentions looking away from the child as it's being operated on. It almost seems like there's some buried instinct of regret or hesitation.
Yeah. It's very curious. And it's not even to protect the kid. They say obviously in the story that it's to protect the kid from the dangers of knowing your biology. But I somehow feel like that's not what it is for. It feels more like it's to protect everyone else from seeing someone grow up with the biology they were created with and not having a iceberg-sized panic attack over it. It's sort of like when you have 19 miserable people in a room and someone happy walks into the room, and instead of being happy for that person, they just want to make that happy person miserable because they can't let other people be happy so long as they're miserable.
Yeah,
That's
I
what it
get what
feels
you're
like to
Crab
me.
saying.
bucket.
Yeah.
There are two sci-fi stories I recall that actually did something like this very interesting. One of them was an old 1980s pseudo space western.
Well, I mean,
And
Star
there,
Trek did it perfectly fine.
oh, with the hands? No, I'm actually talking about
Oh,
the
no,
child
with the
augmentation.
with the child augmentation. No, I was talking about in terms of the whole resource cost waving away everything.
Oh yeah, no, that Clark Tech is basically magic.
Yeah. I mean, it's dude, they did it just fine, and it's just I don't really think that this had to be revised. I don't. This is what I'm baffled by is they have the Clark Tech. Like I don't know if you were here for last Friday when we went over it. Um,
I
but
had to dip out early because certain
yeah,
topics came up. I knew I wouldn't be
yeah,
able to
that's
keep
right.
my mouth shut
What
about.
it was. Yeah. But basically they have the Clark Tech to do everything that his political alignment wants to do, but they don't do that, and instead they do Imperium level butchery and 1984 style propaganda because reasons. Even though the Clark Tech later gets used to do a whole bunch of other things, they just don't use the Clark Tech in those specific scenarios because they specifically want to butcher things. And I kind of feel like this is like a look into a human psyche, and that look is revealing something very, very wrong about this person.
Well, I think, of course, you can always do it Drakari style, but in terms of actual child augmentation, the space western, I wish I could remember about this, centered on a bounty hunter character, and in their society, differing tech levels, but there was one which was basically run by AI, and they were post scarcity to the point it was as close to a physical utopia paradise on the mortal plane as is conceivable. And a point was made is that something like 90% of their population actually receives an AI companion from birth. And this individual she had been hired to recover because he'd been kidnapped was a young man. He was 18. He's actually on his way to get chipped because his family, one of the ruling families, required all of their children to live up to their majority, their age of majority, without an AI companion so that they could function without one if something happened.
Right, yeah.
And that society is actually shown for a little while, but you see that the vast majority of people aren't capable of functioning independently. They aren't just like addicted to like internet or VR life sim stuff. It's more like they're so used to never having to question or think that having to question or think becomes difficult. And that's why the ruling families have this rule, because they can't actually remain innovative or creative or competent if they are like the population they govern. And it genuinely is a paradise. It's like post AI singularity. They had the schism that was in the background. And so you can choose, you can opt in to the AI chip in your brain. And the AI will never, under any circumstances, force a person, but you still give up your autonomy, because that AI will always just be so much more persuasive and intelligent than you. So it's presented as a very serious sacrifice. You are gaining material pleasure and comfort at the almost guaranteed cost of independence and autonomy.
Yeah.
And the other one I recall is far more dystopian. It's where all children.
More?
I think this wasn't All Tomorrows. I don't think, but it's where all children at birth were given specific gene modifications that basically eliminated 99.99% of all genetically born illnesses.
Right.
But the people that did this didn't know what they were doing, and it basically stunted human creativity.
Makes sense.
And so
That sounds familiar.
well, they basically made themselves the Draka from that book series without intending to do it, and not going full grim dark with it, and more a, hey, we figured out a solution to 99.999% of our problems. Trust the science.
Yeah.
And that was presented as, be very careful what you wish for, monkey paw type Clark's tech, rather than being a political digression. But yeah, so I have seen the whole augmentation of even literally newborns or even children before they're born.
Right.
I've seen that topic done well, but I've never actually seen it where you present characters that have their children, well, partially
Mutilated.
flayed.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so and Phoenix clears it up. Basically, the first era is this chapter. The second era, which is the chapter we previously covered, is 100 generations later in terms of technology. So they're Clark Tech in the first chapter. They're modern day butchery in the first chapter. But I mean, honestly, again, this is actually makes it worse. Because they don't need to do this. They don't need to butcher a child's genitals with a surgery table upon being born. Because this isn't like the first era where they could inject the child with fucking the Clark tech so they could just freely morph their body as they please.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so we're covering Wild Bow.
Wow, Bo.
Oh no. Oh, is that what the fucking diaper thing was?
Yes.
Yep.
Basically, the first chapter, chapter we covered on Friday, had an era where Clark Tech effectively existed. If someone wanted to have a dick, they grew a dick. If they didn't want to have a dick
Right.
anymore, they didn't have the dick anymore. And there wasn't butchery involved in this. In the second chapter, the current one we're covering today, there is a lot of butchery involved because they are just starting to broach the technology that allowed this in the future, and so they have to do extreme levels of butchery right from the get-go. It's also really disturbing because is there? It's not just the genitals; it's also the face and the arms. Okay, and the legs. Okay, and the chest. All right. Yeah, I don't really know how that really works out too great. Babies grow really fast, and I'm not really sure you can get augmentations. Like you have to like take your baby in every single fucking like month or so just to make the augmentations keep up in
Don't they like
size.
yeah, don't they like double in volume or weight or something every month or two?
Yeah,
Like
It's
go on double.
pretty fucking rapid, yeah. Um, so it's like I'm kind of really baffled by the choice to augment it early, and like I said again, this is like purely for political reasons. This isn't to protect the baby. This is purely to protect everyone but the baby. Because how dare this baby not have synthetic genitals? Because I need to enforce my political beliefs upon this baby because I believe in
So
the freedom of choice. I believe in the ultimate freedom of choice, and so I will force this person to have choice, whether they want it, whether they want to or not. I will
yeah,
use
no,
power over this person to force them to have choice.
this is the ultimate outgroup emphasis of morality. And also, I want to point out, 40K is not screwed up.
Yeah,
Cherubim are vat grown. They
yeah,
don't have a brain or a nervous system. They're not actual children.
yeah.
Like the Imperium of Man isn't this screwed up. Not even the Drukari themselves are this
Sometimes
screwed
they
up. Like
are.
no,
Sometimes they
actually,
are children.
Drukari
No.
trueborn children are
Oh no, I'm sorry.
protected and treasured.
I meant the baby. I meant the cherubim.
No, I
Most of
thought
them are
cherubim were vat grown.
most of them.
I
All
would
right,
hope
fair enough.
all of them, but okay.
This is
You're
Imperium,
probably right.
unfortunately.
It's 40K.
Yeah,
This is the Imperium.
but yeah. So
Which you 85% of the Imperium isn't that bad. Like 1% of it's really good. You don't know, the rest is a bit iffy, but hey.
yeah. But again, it's just like this is disturbed. That's what it is. Okay, that's what it is. Wild Boat is a disturbed individual who has become extremely warped. I don't know. Maybe he had exposure to warpstone or something. Because this guy is just.
I mean, if he were doing it to show how bad this kind of thing is, and
Well,
how
that's what I'm saying.
good
Is
it could be, but he's not.
if you wrote this story with the alignment of the narrative being evil, then that would be one thing. But he is trying to frame what's going on in this story as good.
And it was a good thing
Yeah,
that
it
we
was a good
mutilated the
thing.
baby.
Yeah, it's a good thing we put babies on a conveyor belt to be chop-shopped so we can protect ourselves from the idea of someone else not having the neurosis we have. We will enforce neurosis upon the child.
That. No, because this represents the ultimate subjugation of the material world, to, I suppose you could say, the liberal mindset. It is not the injury of a child, but the liberation of the child from
Yes.
their own flesh and blood.
Yes.
It is rational mind, the chemoelectrical signals ascending beyond the flesh.
Yeah. Yeah, see, like, again, these sorts of people are just, they're obsessed with, the material world. That's what it is. And not the good kind of obsession. Not the kind of obsession that draws you to forge out into the wildlands and craft a hearth and home out of nothing and grow vast swaths of crops and create a haven for yourself and your future family. No, they're obsessed with the material wealth of the sorts of like the gang member who gets told by his boss that for every person he beats to death with a bat, they'll give him a pat on the head and a donut. And he really likes donuts, so he's gonna go kill 30 people.
I was gonna say, shit, man, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
So, yeah, I don't know. I cannot, I actually cannot understand the obsession with the material world these people have. I actually just cannot.
Because they're deterministic.
And you're attempting to approach this from the point of view of holistic logic. Think about it very simply as
Oh no, I understand it. I'm not saying when I say I can't understand it, I don't mean I'm not able to fathom it. I'm able to perfectly fathom it. I just can't understand why someone will want to live that way.
because they genuinely believe it's the answer to all of their problems that they face right now. It is the negation of self-responsibility, of one's duty of care for oneself and others, because this other thing, this outside factor, this thing that can be medicated away or cut away, is what is responsible for bad thing, not my decisions, my behavior, my choice.
Right, but that's what I'm saying though. Is I can't understand why you would want to be flaying yourself of the ability to captain your life.
Fear, unlimited fear, pure and simple. Any limited finite physical pain is lesser than the unlimited fear they have constructed in their own mind. Simple
No,
as.
I know. Like I said, I logically can understand their fucking delusional lunacies. I don't know
Okay,
why
I'm
you would ever
sorry.
want to be like
My
I
bad.
no, yeah, I know, I understand. I'm just not explaining it well. It's like
No,
I'm what I'm just
because
saying is
you can construct it, you can model it, you can say this is what they believe, this is why they believe it. It just seems absurd to you. It's
You
incredulous.
comprehend, but you don't understand.
yeah, it's like they wake up and they decide that today I'm going to scream at the mirror for 10 minutes and then blame my dad. And it's just like, why? It's like,
Because they hate
know-
themselves.
yeah, no, I can understand. Like, I can math it out. I can put it on the fucking equation table, and I can get how they would wake up, and then how their thought process would construct it to justify screaming at a mirror for 10 minutes and then blaming their father for their problem. But I
You know
don't
what would be a lot
understand
easier?
why you would want to do that.
If
It's
they
like
had
the
this kind
people
of
that
trust-
it's like the people that are like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna go walk in front of traffic, because I can. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Because fuck this
See
care.
what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
if they
it's
have this kind of trust, I would more expect that they would just basically have do-it-yourself brain surgery. Like, hey, if you're depressed, guess what? We can reattach some neurons, and you'll never be depressed again.
but
I
again,
mean, that should be one of the first things.
that's the weirdest thing about that group of people is that solutions make them scared because a solution means they don't have things to blame anymore.
A
And that's what-
solution takes away the
and that what
problem that
makes
makes them special.
Yeah, doesn't make them feel
No,
special.
no, no,
anymore.
no, no, no. The specialness is their cope of the bad thing, right? So well, let's use a recent example. Say you never learned how to drive, and you decide to get a job because you need to eat food. Except you still don't want to learn how to drive. So you find someone who's willing to drive you. And then one day they can't drive you anymore because they have to go drive themselves places. And so instead of taking a moment and being like, okay, I have to face this, I have to move on, I have to learn how to drive, you go, no, I will empty my savings account to pay for Ubers for the sole purpose of not learning how to drive. Because if I learned how to drive, then I would be able to go places that I want to go. I would be able to get jobs that I want to get. I would be able to blame myself for me not doing those things instead of me not being able to get someone to drive me somewhere.
Okay, but he is learning how to drive.
Because he was forced at gunpoint.
because he was forced to literally the death of someone else.
Wait, are we still talking about Wildbow or this?
No, we're
No.
talking about someone else.
Who
But
the fuck is that?
someone on the server of
Sign server.
he
Which-
left the server because his roommate, who was also on the server, dared to exist in a way that temporarily inconvenienced him when he was already having one of his victim pity parties. And so
when did this
therefore
happen?
he took out a rooster and sacrificed it to impart his sins upon the rooster. And the rooster in
Wait,
this
is
case,
Cass on the server?
I'm on the
Kaz,
server, but
I
I-
think Kaz on the server. Crow.
I'm on the server, but I only Crow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I only really stick to a few of the channels, like the shit
Yeah.
Rex, the story Rex, sometimes story crafting.
I would
And
say
then
I
the
read
mains
shit
and-
Rex, story Rex, and story crafting, and that is my
Yeah.
life.
I also
That's
go into
fair.
the mains and cursed media and the secret chat.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Paul's
pretty
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
everybody loves the secret chat.
Gary chat is the best chat.
Yeah. But that's about it. I don't go on any of the other ones. It's just like how in the SDM I only go on to certain channels as well.
Yeah. And I don't blame you. I'm basically I'm just making fun of Crow because he was a very
No, that's fair. Even when he posted in other channels, he seemed like a little bitch.
he was. He constantly victimized himself because it let him feel special. Because he was the victim, even though the
Okay, look.
victim. No,
Wasn't
it is
he one
what
of
it
the ones
is.
that kept going?
Crow-
Wasn't he one of the ones that kept going to the politics channel and then complaining about the politics channel? And what was going
No.
No. That was someone else.
there?
Which, by the way,
No,
I
alright.
still think you should stealth ban evil.
Who?
Evil
Hippie.
Hippie.
Oh, yeah. No, alright. So Crow's thing there is I want to say he's low key Aspie.
That doesn't
I
matter.
get why he
That doesn't
does
matter.
what he does. It
That doesn't matter.
matters a little.
No, it doesn't.
No,
You
it
should be
doesn't
able to
matter at
handle
all.
your shit. Yes, you should absolutely be able to handle your shit.
No,
Bro,
it
I
doesn't-
have been
I'm-
diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, high functioning Asperger's, low functioning Asperger's. You fucking name it. I have been diagnosed with it by one doctor.
No,
Yeah,
I
I'm
have
saying I get
zero
why he
fucking
is the way he
tolerance.
is.
Sign that is not the way. The
He's
reason
a
the way he is what he is is 'cause he
25-year-old
uses it as an
fucking
excuse.
adult.
He uses it as an excuse, Sign. Don't fucking
Yeah.
make more excuses for him.
And that's
I'm not
exactly
making
what
an
I'm fucking
excuse, I'm saying
You
You
are
are making
why
an
he is the
excuse for
way he
him.
is.
No,
That is
that doesn't
exactly what
fucking
you're
matter.
doing. That doesn't matter. You're doing the exact thing that he wants you to do. That he's using that fucking shit as an excuse.
Is it?
No, I
Yes.
think I get what Sign is saying. Sign is saying he is weight X, but he needs to learn how to deal with it. That's part of
Yes,
his growth.
thank you.
Right, and
But no,
my
you were
point
starting
is,
to talk as if you were making an excuse. As, oh, but he's got Asperger's.
yeah, but
No,
he's
no.
got these problems. I'm sorry, but if you say if you don't have legs, whether they got lost in an accident or you were born without them, you're gonna have to learn how to use a wheelchair to get around.
Yeah.
But if
Or
all you
prosthetics.
do in your life is refuse to use prosthetics, refuse to use a wheelchair, and all you do is you drag yourself one arm at a time across the floor. And then you
Yeah,
complain that it takes so long to get places, and it's so hard to get places.
So
Yeah.
dirty.
Unless you've got,
And
unless
you're
you've
so
got
dirty.
nerve
Yeah.
or fucking, unless you've got nerve or spinal damage where you quite literally can't use prosthetics because you can't move properly.
Or a
You
wheel.
have no
But I'm
reason.
saying there's a wheelchair. You have multiple
Yeah.
options.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have multiple options to not be in a
Dragging on the
situation where
floor.
you're dragging yourself by one arm across the floor.
What if I'm
And
doing Ivar the Boneless cosplay from the Vikings TV show?
yeah, but that's not an
Yeah.
excuse. It's an excuse when you're 5. It's not an excuse when you're 25.
Mm. By the way, speaking on pieces of oh, Alval's muted. Never mind. I was
You
gonna
can
ask
unmute
these
yourself.
But
no,
No,
it's-
I'm here.
So speaking on pieces of trash, Alva, your DxD fic, you thought about you rethought thinking about using those
Tell us
two
how you really
characters
feel.
because Sina actually told us that the anime lowered them down because it was more publicly available, but all the shit we talked about was in light novel.
Yeah, so my problem is I read the light novels like a
Really?
decade ago, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back and read 27 volumes of
DxD.
Trash.
okay, enjoyable
Of
light
DxD.
novel.
No, of
Yeah,
DxD.
I'm not going to reread 27 volumes of that.
Yeah.
So
I'm not
my
even going to read
problem was,
27
like,
chapters of DxD fix, so that's fair.
Well, see, I enjoy writing more than I enjoy reading, especially these
Mm.
days.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think the only thing I've read in a while are my Lovecraft compendiums, and I got those as a birthday present. So
That's fair.
As one might imagine,
so-
I do enjoy my pondering. So
Mm.
Literally
You got
just
an
bought
orb?
a book.
You got an orb to ponder with?
yeah, I do have an orb to ponder with.
And what was the
Ooh.
book? Tell the chat what was the book.
Harem trash.
It was porn. Yeah. So anyway,
It's corny harem trash.
so Alvor,
Yeah.
you were saying?
You're muted again, brother.
No, because my mic is crap, and sometimes it
Ah.
catches Sneaky's echo.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
so I
powerful
didn't
like
mute
that.
myself when I'm not talking. No, so looking back at them, I just decided I was gonna just push them off to the side a little bit,
Mhm.
give them something positive to do, and since they're too young for military service, I'm just gonna put them
Prison.
under basically a super
Prison.
ninja who's going to drill
Ah.
sergeant them into being morally better people, but
That
mostly
works.
off screen. So I don't
Mm.
actually show it.
That's fair. Yeah.
Have you thought about putting them
Also
in
to
prison
help-
instead?
Because that would make things too real, and I don't think Issei is actually morally or intellectually developed enough to sit down there and let that happen.
Ah,
No.
True.
Yeah.
So
Um,
I don't even think that's an Issei thing. I think a bit of that is a Japan thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah. Crow's also the type to get on the ass for those things, and yeah. Well, see, again, this is the case with a lot of these online Redditards, and yeah, Crow's a fucking Redditard. Is a lot of projection, a lot of self-victimization. It's why I don't tolerate that shit. I don't care. If this person has a problem, that's their problem. If they have a problem with me, that's a skill issue. I started reading Dungeon Crawler Carl because a lot of people recommended it, and it's amazing. Dungeon Crawler Carl.
I read
That
that.
sounds
It's
familiar.
actually not bad. Look, I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's great, but it's certainly, if you're looking for like an acceptable story to waste some time reading, that's a fine one.
Dungeon Crawler Carl. The apocalypse will be televised. A man, his ex-girlfriend's cat, a sadistic game show unlike anything else in the universe, A dungeon crawl where survival depends on you killing your prey in the most entertaining way possible.
TLDR, Sneaky. There's aliens in the universe, and when they decide to expand somewhere, they destroy all of the buildings, kill most of the population, and put the rest of them in a classic dungeon RPG, except it's also the Truman Show.
I see.
Mm.
Not very interesting to me, to be honest.
Like I said, it's perfectly, like, writing wise, it's perfectly acceptable. There's decent characters who grow and react into the situations they're in.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the writing's good. It's just one
Oh
of those
no.
cases of, like,
This isn't like a sell Sneaky on it. This is just a, like I said, it's a perfectly acceptable way to
Right.
waste some time.
Sure.
So I would give it a you won't regret reading this out of 10,
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
which is different from the you won't regret reading this out of 10. This is just the you won't regret it.
Speaking of regretting reading things out of 10, let's look at the Full Metal Alchemist section, because you know what, we haven't done that in a very long time, and also it's pretty much full of just absolute dog shit, garbage.
It can't be
Because-
worse than Wild Bo's trash.
Well,
No.
you say that, but
I have to say
actually,
that.
Wildbow can be weird, but
It's
you
not
gotta
so
remember he's not as weird as some of the stuff out there, man. And like, I mean, just on like
I don't know about the
Wattpad
Full
and
Metal
fanfiction.net.
Alchemist. Yeah, I don't know about the Full Metal Alchemist section, but the crossover section definitely probably matches.
I
his
mean,
things.
so, like, here's the thing, right? Wild Bow is like your generic, coked out, white trash, trailer park kid, right? Some of the fanfics we've seen on this podcast, are like rabid, feral, on 9 different drugs, somehow hasn't overdosed, partially naked and covered in shit.
Actually, speaking of, I remember there was one author who was reasonably popular, and they did a lot of PGO crossovers. PJO, not PG, PJO. I promise I
Yep.
know words.
Yeah.
Except they had a specifically a diaper fetish and a poop fetish, and so randomly.
I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. And it was a piss fetish, not a poop fetish, and femboyization.
Oh.
I know
Shut
exactly who
up.
you're fucking talking about because I keep fucking finding them, thinking, "Oh, this is a decent story." I was like, "Fuck, it's this author."
Yeah, and the thing is I encountered that at a point where I wasn't naive and bright-eyed, but I
Yeah.
encountered them at a point where I didn't like realize that that's just how some authors are. So I'd be like 10 chapters into a story, and then all of a sudden somebody's been like reduced to a toddler for several chapters.
Yep.
And it's just
And let me guess, the reason was,
What?
and the reason for the pissing fetish was, I had a friend who, after a long car trip, ended up pissing herself, and it still affected them today. So I put it in all my stories, which is the
I didn't
legitimate
even know that,
reason that the author
Kaz, but
does.
thank you.
Yeah, he put in he or she or whatever put it into an author's note. I don't know what fucking gender the author
Ma'am.
is.
All I'm saying is I hope your gravity tether snaps and you float off the bottom of the earth one day.
Yeah. I can't do that because Australia doesn't exist. All countries that start with A are actually a psyop made with green screen. Antarctica
Yeah.
doesn't exist, and neither does climate change.
Precisely. So, anyway, the Full Metal Alchemist section starts off today with Deal Alphonse. Initially just to practice writing while getting used to his automail, Edward keeps a diary he secretly writes in over the course of the entire series. Oh, I'm sure. Each entry is phrased like they're written for Al, of all the things he can't say. I mean,
I'm pretty sure Edward has always let all of his thoughts be known. He's never thought,
No,
"Oh, I can't."
no,
say
no.
that.
He carried a heavy guilt about what happened
did?
to Alphonse. Oh yeah.
He did, yes, that. But I meant like when meeting new people or people he didn't like, because he usually was pretty outspoken about that.
Yes, yeah, and I think I think the idea of him keeping a
Mm.
diary about the things he wished he could say to his brother, I think that undermines his character.
Yeah.
If it was wholesome, I might like it. Yeah, yeah,
It's
that's
angst
fair.
humor. It's
It's
angst
rated
humor.
K plus in angst humor, which means it's
Mhm.
not. It's going to be wholesome in terms of not being degenerate filth, but it's not going to be wholesome in terms of being
Interaction, character interaction, at all.
Well, no, I was gonna say more just fluffy. Like like
Yeah.
a feel good read. Like even if it might be
Mm.
sad, it's still a feel good read. Like this is just
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be like painful to read, not because it's
Mm.
cringy, but because it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
not being filth makes you better than 50% of this website. I mean, you're not wrong. However, it's also not a high bar.
No.
Diary entries
And
take
that's
place over the course of the 2003 series. Why the 2003 series? You are
Why?
posting this story in 2024. Why would you not do it for Brotherhood? The objectively better series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, there
Maybe
are
someone got
some
into their older
things.
siblings' anime stash or something.
Who knows? There are
Maybe.
some things I prefer from the 2003 in terms of like character moments, but like from overall story cohesiveness, Brotherhood is absolutely better because Brotherhood had an actual ending and not whatever the fuck happened at the end of the 2003 series. I think they went through a door and time traveled or something.
They went to an alternative universe, which was our Earth, where Hitler succeeded in his supernatural
Yeah.
esoterica.
Yeah.
Well,
That was
I guess they were on those Hyperborea hours.
Yeah, I guess Full Metal Alchemist Beyond Armstrikes, set 15 years after Brotherhood ended. The story of a new protagonist unfolds as the world is on the brink of a Cold War. Okay. Between
maybe they
Unum
mean a
and
Cold War going
Drachma,
on.
who have emerged as superpowers after Father fell. Wait, Drachma, isn't that just the Greek representative and Unum is Britain?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
I,
they had a bad habit of making nations of hats, but they were hatty enough.
I mean, it's just I'm really confused by authors who are like, I really liked Harry Potter. So I'm gonna write a 15 years after Harry Potter events of Harry Potter occurred, with this completely original character taking place in America, and they're gonna fight original villains with an original plot, and they're gonna use original magic in an
And they're
original
actually a
location.
squib that uses guns because that's better than any magic.
Yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
I'm just really confused by these authors because it's like, bro, at this point, just fucking call it not Harry Potter. Just
Write your
like,
own
what
fic.
the fuck are you doing?
Write your own
Yeah,
book. JK
like,
did it. You can do it.
like,
Well,
like the
okay,
point
let's
of
not be
fan
crazy there
fiction.
now.
Yeah, but it's
That
like the
black
point
hole
of
got
fan
her.
fiction is to explore the fandom, but you're not really exploring the fandom if literally 90% of what you're writing is air quotes original work and it's barely building off of the original work in terms of
Okay, so
events.
Sneaky,
Yeah.
gun to your head, you have to write a fic set 15 years after the end of Harry Potter. What would you write?
If I had to write a fic 15
Mhm.
years after Harry Potter.
Easy. OC character ends up
Personally,
with a mistake with a time turner, ends up in Hogwarts Legacy. I write Hogwarts Legacy.
ha, I think
Right.
I'd be I think I'd be a
Mm.
And
little
that's why you're
lazy.
15 when you join Hogwarts Legacy, because you're actually a time traveler.
Shut up.
You know what? I can respect that. I would probably try to do something like Treaty of Versailles type deal where the end of the last war is fomenting the next one, except this time people can actually see it coming. And so the hope is that, you know, maybe this time those problems which were boiling under the surface in the original series can actually be resolved in an actually adult way, rather than just them disappearing magically.
No,
I
I
mean,
play
there's a
professional
couple
Quidditch.
there's a
I play
couple
professional
ways
Quidditch. The rest of the
I
world
would
gets
roll it.
ignored, and I just write about how Quidditch is.
I mean, if it was a one shot, yeah, it would just be a slice of life little thing of Harry Potter 15 years later doing whatever activity he ended up finding enjoyable. Maybe he's riding a fucking dragon. Maybe Harry Potter 15 years later decided he was gonna finally make all of the Harry Potter Boy Who Lived books come true, and he was gonna go ride a dragon to fight a Dark Lord, and he was gonna discover Atlantis with the help of a underwater unicorn, and like maybe he
He just has
decided
a
fuck
freaking
it,
pickle.
let's just go make this shit real. If
Mhm.
that's what I was, if I was gonna write a one shot and I had to be 15 years in the future, that's what I would do. If I was writing a novella, I probably would try and do a darker take on Harry Potter. Harry Potter, after the war decides, nah, fuck this. I'm fucking off. I'm done dealing with Britain. I'm done dealing with everyone's bullshit. And they decide they're just going to leave, go fucking make an ice hut out in the Siberia or some shit, and they're just gonna fish and practice some magic every day or whatever, right? Fight polar bears or something, right?
Yeah, no,
Um,
like I can dig that.
Bam, eat
and
Who,
vitamin do.
who,
ultimately they get dragged back to Britain at the request of Hermione, because all of the problems that he left behind have ended up, you know, making a third Dark Lord who's rising up, causing issues. Hermione, and it would focus on both the consequences of being unwilling to act, the consequences of being unwilling to step up, the consequences of being unwilling to put a final punishment in place. Because again, canonically, a large majority of the wizards from the second Voldemort uprising um, weren't really punished. Oh yeah, they went to
yeah,
jail.
it is like, hey, we killed like half a dozen people. Everyone just goes back to their life, even though like a third of the population of Britain was part of the magical SS. It was
Yeah, yeah. So it's like the novella be focusing more on the consequences of being unwilling to act. Or and then Hermione would be the foil to Harry Potter's unwillingness to act. Hermione would be the over willingness to act, and where Harry Potter comes back and the laws are absolutely just ruined by Hermione's attempt to pressure the system to change to be better, air quotes. But because Hermione never took the time to understand the system she was trying to change and just tried to force her ideas of what better is on it, everything that she tried to improve was ruined by her ideas because she never took the time to understand it because she felt she knew better.
yeah. She's treating it like it's a math problem, not hundreds of years of tradition built on top of itself.
And then if
Plot,
I had to
plot
write a
idea.
long story, a full book,
Plot idea.
15 years
Harry's
in the
family
future.
sitting in home. Ginny and the kids. Harry comes running in, grabs his cloak and broom, and is like, Voldemort's back. What? Voldemort's back. Mr. Horcrux. See ya.
No, lame.
No, I mean, listen, it's a funny joke, but like,
If
it's
I
not.
had to write a
He's not.
15
No,
year,
he's not going to fight. He's not going to fight. He grabbed the cloak and broom to run off. He's like, not my problem anymore.
if I had to write a 15-year novel, 80 to 100K. I think at that point, it would be more of a slow burn story in which Harry didn't fuck off, but more kind of pulled a Dumbledore, in where he was there, he would say the things, he would support the ideas, but he wasn't out campaigning. He was just merely being there supporting things. And so things kind of tipped the scales, it kind of leaned in a direction, much like Dumbledore, but Dumbledore could have just come out and said, "All right, yeah, you can't torture Muggles anymore. If you do that, we kill you." Um, because he
You're
had the
Dumbledore.
power.
You don't do that.
He had the power and the position to just enact laws like that, but he never used it. And because he believed in second chances so much, they had their third,
I
fifth, and
think there was
seventh second
also
chance.
I think there was also a strong element of Britishness to that. The idea of those who are best vested with power are those least likely to use it. I don't agree with that. Obviously, I'm American, but just as I sometimes mention ideas are
Um,
very Japanese in origin, I think that's very British in origin.
No,
Um,
I believe, no, I believe there is a certain degree of it. Um, but much like, Cincinnatus, Marcus Aurelius, the people where that sort of idea comes from, is at the end of the day, when the power was vested in these people who did not wish to wield it, they stood up and wielded it for the good of society.
Yeah.
They
Also, I
didn't
want to say
shy away from it.
that's not like it's not like a British or a Japanese thing. Like pretty much every language that mankind has spoken has some variation of the phrase power corrupts absolute, power corrupts absolute.
No,
Like
that's a very Western thing.
Yeah.
That's a very Western
allow me
thing.
then for
most philosophies have
for
come to a
Atten
conclusion
to
that power is bad. Like there are people who should have power, there are people who aren't supposed to have power, and the people that desperately want power shouldn't have it. Like not necessarily the exact phrase, but
Um,
allow me to slightly reformulate that, Ben.
sure.
J.K. Rowling, when she wrote the Harry Potter books, existed as a product of the 80s, 90s, very early
yeah,
2000s British system. And so
Absolutely.
Dumbledore is an expression of the largely, if not exclusively, Anglo ideal of the individual whom has been entrusted with all but sovereignty in name, even if they are sovereign in practice, but who is loath to wield that influence because it shall establish the precedence that that influence can be wielded.
should be wielded. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, because the very act of using power justifies the use of power. Strength used for good or ill makes no excuses.
Right,
So,
but I mean, again, that British system. I don't know. I can't really speak for J.K. Rowling because I've never heard her speak about that as far as Dumbledore goes. But that I would say that British system, in my opinion, is a fundamental misunderstanding of Cincinnatus, of Marcus Aurelius. Because again, at
the
the
thing is, first
it,
of all,
yeah,
that's the whole Roman versus Germanic idea of how power is distributed and where it comes from. But that's a bit off topic. Just specifically with Dumbledore, he is, I think, a great example of someone who is so afraid of using power and what it could do to them that they allow great evil and injustice
yes,
through
yeah. Like I
indolence.
said, I can't speak on whether J.K. Rowling was intentional with that, whether this was supposed to be a commentary on the British justice system, whether this was supposed to be a
No. I
commentary.
think it was entirely accidental. I think it was
Yeah,
cultural why she
yeah,
wrote him that way.
that's fair.
He's,
Okay, yeah,
he's supposed
because
to be unambiguously good. He is
yes,
supposed to be not Jesus. Harry is Jesus, so I suppose
yeah,
you might say he's supposed to almost be God the Father. Um, he he is the person whom you wish would govern over you, while Voldemort is the person who wishes to govern over you.
That's
And
fair. I think what I'm trying to say though is when I keep bringing these guys up is in the end both Cincinnatus and Marcus relinquished the power. They were invested the power, they used the power, and then they relinquished the power when it was no longer needed to be used. And
I thought Marcus Aurelius was ultimately crowned emperor.
no, that was his inheritor
successor.
who named himself Marcus Aurelius
Yeah,
Augustus.
he was Roman emperor from 161 to 180.
Oh right, my
Because
bad.
Cincinnatus was the guy declared dictator, and basically made dictator for life to deal with civil war, I think.
Yeah, something
But
like
then
that. Yeah.
went back, gave up all of his power, and went to
Right,
go be a
and
cabbage farmer.
then Marcus was learned from Cincinnatus' writings, right? That's what it was. That's the chain.
Yeah,
I
he
think.
was a Stoic.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
He was descended from Trajan.
Right. Yeah. So I was thinking Cincinnatus' actions or Marcus' actions, but yeah. Point being though, is they Cincinnatus relinquished the power as it should be. And I think that's what gets misunderstood. Is someone doesn't need to fill the position if your culture doesn't require it, but you do need to have the position exist for when it does. And you need to have a cultural system and a political system in place that is filled with people who understand why the position exists, and more importantly, why that position is not filled.
Well, I was just saying, right? So just to jump in here, right? You can go back to the original Roman Republic, back before Caesar
Yeah.
fucked everything up.
Yeah. Well, to
right.
be fair, the reason why Caesar fucked everything up is because the Roman Republic at the time was fucking itself up. But
Well,
yeah.
yes, right.
Yeah,
But hopping back to the original Roman Republic, right? They had a Senate, much like ours. They argued, they debated, they made laws. They voted on shit. Everything was working okay. But they knew that a fully democratic system would be vulnerable to certain issues that demanded immediate and decisive action, and thus they had the position of the dictator. Because dictator now has a lot of negative connotations because people do shitty things with dictatorship. The original Roman Republic dictatorship was an elected position, believe it or not, where
no.
the
It was
Senate.
appointed. Dictatorship was granted by the senator, but it was
Yes,
almost always granted to a consul or a
yes,
proconsul,
right. But my
which
point
were
is,
elected.
it was a granted position. It was not something seized. It was something that the Roman Senate conferred upon another person that basically gave them supreme executive power for the duration of a crisis.
Yeah.
Whatever that
I think it was
crisis
explicitly
was.
for a year, but it would be renewed basically in perpetuity so long as the crisis persisted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
However, right, and then when it was done, the person who had supreme executive power didn't. Right?
Yeah.
I forget what it was. But there was a gentleman. It's not the one you're thinking of, Sneak, but there was another gentleman. Some war they had to fight.
Cincinnati was very early on.
Yeah.
Fought off
Cincinnati,
raids.
but there are other examples
Yes.
besides Cincinnati.
Well, I mean, it's much like with George Washington, in where a cultural pace was set by the first.
Yeah.
Where this guy stood down afterwards. He was given absolute power. He used absolute power and then relinquished the power and let the position be filled by someone else. Because it's important that you do that. But again, we didn't have an actual law in place in America to dictate that you can only serve 2 terms as a president.
Yeah. It wasn't
until it was like
after JFK.
1940. Yeah, it was like 1950 something or whatever.
The law was put in place basically JFK basically shoved it through as an amendment because it had, as you said, George Washington established a cultural norm based on because the U.S. Constitution is very clear. The president is not a king. He is not
Yeah.
supposed to be a king. In fact, that's one of the things that's troubling about the Supreme Court's decision and how broad it is in how much freedom it grants to the title of an official executive action from which the
Yeah.
president is immune. Right, and I want to be clear. This
Mm.
has nothing to do with what's happening right this minute.
Well, I
It
mean,
is
there's the whole
incredibly
idea of checks
troubling.
and balances, though, is that technically speaking, the House and Senate can impeach the president, which removes their protections on those actions. But the idea is that
Right.
until that
But-
event occurs, that they remain unscrutinized for those actions, specifically to encourage people to not feel fear in taking actions that
Right,
might
because
incur
there
that.
are actions the president may need to take that are legitimately required, such as, right, like, I don't think anyone would sit here and say assassinating Hitler would have been a bad move. It's an
Well, it's not
unethical
just that;
move.
it's the war crime exception.
Well,
Yeah.
So
it's war crimes. Right.
TLDR, without getting actually political,
Sure. Yeah.
basically every president in human history, or not human history, I'm sorry, American history, since like World War One has technically been guilty of war crimes of one kind or another.
Mm.
As in, like, they could legitimately be charged with war crimes.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's not just the meme of, oh, W was a war crime or Obama was. No, it'd be like genuinely. But the thing is
Yeah.
the U.S. basically said we have to accept a certain amount of civilian casualties in military conflicts and overseas operations.
To be clear,
We're
actually,
not
that's
going.
not just the U.S. One of the things that
Everyone.
people overlook
Yeah,
in the Geneva Convention is the Geneva Convention doesn't say you can't kill civilians. The Geneva Convention specifies that you must take reasonable steps to ensure that you are not harming civilians, which is why people are mad at both Russia and Israel, because both people on all sides of all aisles believe that Group A is
The
not making
reasonableness
a
standard has been
reasonable
violated.
effort
Yeah,
to
no.
limit civilian casualties.
Yeah.
But who defines
It-
reasonable effort? So
Yeah.
Mm.
Well,
anyway,
yes, and that
to
that's a
reel
whole
it back, and then we're gonna reel it back again.
Yeah.
George Washington wanted to leave after 4 years.
which
they
established
understandable.
as
which
Sneak
established
said,
the term.
established the cultural
And?
president because
And then he
first of
served.
all-
Well, no, he served for 4 more years after that, and then he tried to leave again, and they tried to invite him again and again. And he said, "No, no man should rule this long," and just fucked off to a farm. And everyone was
Right.
like, "Well, okay, so 4 years is a term, and you can't serve more than 2 terms because the cultural precedent was no one wanted to be the guy who said they were better than Washington."
exactly.
Yeah.
And the only reason JFK ever did it was because he was in the middle of World War II. Well,
which
Yeah.
is where they established the precedent for
yes.
for
To be clear,
wartime.
he started
Yeah.
with the
You mean
Depression,
FDR?
or FDR. Sorry, not JFK. FDR. Sorry, FDR started
Yeah.
with the Depression,
That's
and then
fight
he had
this
World
man.
War II. Sorry. Listen, both of them are awesome for different reasons.
Mm.
One of them beat the Nazis. One of them got shot. Right, but and he then specifically said, "Okay, I've done 3 years. That's it. I'm out. I'm not running again," because he was legitimately the only other person at that period of time who might have legitimately been able to hold presidential offices longer than Washington, because at the time he'd steered the nation. I know everybody has an opinion. He steered the nation through the Depression. He steered the nation through World War II. He probably could have just kept running until he died.
True.
And,
Yep.
and, and the,
We can have a discussion about that later, Atin. But
I'm
I
telling
understand
you,
what you're
I'm
trying to
saying the
say.
popular perception.
Yeah,
I'm
the
not saying
popular
my
perception. Yeah,
perception. The popular perception was he steered them through the Depression. He steered them through World War II.
Yeah.
And he could have run ad infinitum on that. And he
But
said,
yeah.
nope, no one should, and we need a law that says you can't.
So to reel
Yeah.
back again back to the original thing that brought all that up was the question of what would I do if I had to write a novel-sized length of book of 15 years later Harry Potter stuff. It would be that, right? It would be Harry, who didn't fuck off, but kind of just pulled the "I'm a man of great power. I believe this is a good thing, but I don't want to be involved in politics. So I'll just give my name to it, and people will more or less slowly lean in that direction, but not a lot of great change will occur.
You know,
And
with how he probably spoke up for Malfoy, how much people do you think he was just taking bribes?
yeah, funny. But effectively, I would say a 15-year later novel would be you could have a awakening occur for Harry at the start of the book where their kid ends up in a situation that they feel shouldn't have happened because of the political leanings of Harry. You know, maybe it was like you know, a dark wizard did something dark, and you know, their kid got hit with it in the crossfire, or their kid tried to confront the guy, or something. Right? The kid got hurt, and Harry is like, "This guy shouldn't have been out in the streets. What the fuck?" You know, like, why was he out in the streets? He starts to do investigations. He realizes the kind of criminal system that currently is in place still. He's not satisfied with the extreme of Azkaban because, you know, Cyrus, but also he's not satisfied with the fact that these people basically get arrested for a week, 3 weeks, and then get let go because they have a position of power or know someone was a position of power, or it's just not seen as a serious crime in the culture to break someone's arm because, oh, we'll just hit them with the arm fix, Jinx, and then their arm is fixed, no big deal.
And also the fact, don't forget that other than Ministry, like holding cells or whatever, they don't actually have an actual prison other than Azkaban.
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
either Azkaban, death, or nothing.
You basically get a fine, a slap on the wrist, you're in the holding cell for a little bit, or you're sent to fucking Azkaban.
Wait, I thought they had a prison
Nope.
that was shown in
No, Nuremberg
Azkaban.
is not in Britain. Nuremberg is not in Britain. It's not actually a British
not
prison.
Nuremberg. No, I'm talking about there's a prison that's shown in the Hufflepuff route of the
No,
Hogwarts
that's
Legacy
Azkaban.
game.
They show you Azkaban.
No, they show you Azkaban, but they also show you another prison. Like, you start
Well,
off in
if
this
that
other
prison existed back then, it doesn't exist now in the modern day.
Wait, no. I think there's a holding cell in the DMLE, but that's like literally for.
That's what I brought up. That's exactly what I brought up.
We already said that.
If there was a prison in Hogwarts Legacy, it doesn't exist in Harry Potter times.
Yeah,
and I can only guess that Grindelwald might have gone in there and destroyed it because he's.
It's certainly possible. Yeah, it's just what it is that right now in the modern day Harry Potter verse, you have Fines, the Drunk Tank, Azkaban,
or the death with either the male or the Dementor's kiss. Nothing else. No in between.
Or death.
That's kind of extreme.
Yeah. So.
Maybe we can get something in the middle somewhere.
No.
Yeah. Exactly. But that's my point, though. Is Harry kind of has a whole realization. Like the first third of the book would be Harry having the realization. He's starting to look into things. The second third of the book would be Harry stepping up, realizing he needs to wield the power, and then the third part of the book would be Harry finally relinquishing the power, having put in place better systems than what he grew up in. Now safe in the belief that the culture is heading in a better direction.
Because don't forget, on him possibly getting expelled from Hogwarts, they brought in 2 Dementors as if it's like, yeah, he's only getting expelled, but if we can push the death sentence, we may as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
wasn't that because Fudge specifically?
Yes, it was because Fudge.
Fudge, yes. But you can't forget that that's something that they thought was acceptable.
Yeah, like again, the fact that Fudge did it is insane. But what's more insane is the fact that no one complained. Yeah. Like Fudge doing this wasn't seen as extreme. And it was kind of just like bro.
Yeah, we know he's getting expelled, and he could potentially talk about magic to Muggles. So let's be safe and just kill him with a kiss, or turn him into a fucking vegetable.
Yeah. So
what you could do with that then is actually go through the process of of having Harry try to work through the system
Yeah.
to
And you
institute
also can't
large-scale
forget,
legal reform.
it's not like it takes time to get a Dementor in there to kiss someone. They've already got those
Honestly,
things on fucking coal with Fudge bringing it in 2 separate times with no notice.
honestly, simply because of who I am and my own political leanings, I don't think I could ever write a book about someone wielding the system.
Mm.
Wielding the system from inside to make it better.
Sneaky's favorite D&D character, like the one that I hear him talk about the most, was a character who was literally a insane revolutionary, a ghost revolutionary that went around and destroyed the system and killed all the gods because he didn't like the system.
Yeah.
Which, I want to be clear, grossly simplifying. It's actually a great character, hilarious stories, but
Yes.
None of it was great.
Dude, it was so great. But
I always loved
yeah,
hearing tales of him.
at the end of the day, I just can't write a story like changing the system from the inside. Almost never works. We've never really seen it work all that well. Because there's just so many moving parts to it. Force, from which all authority is derived, is at the end of the day the solution to a broken system. Is just fucking break the system down more and replace it with something that actually fucking works.
The problem is that the broken system sees attempts at trying to fix it as damage, and quote unquote repairs
well,
the damage
that's why you
by installing
that's
more
why you use
corruption.
force. Yeah, well,
That's why you use force. Yes.
Yeah.
You got to cut out the tumor to keep it from spreading.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you feed the tumor, it's just gonna grow.
But of course, the problem with the use of force is that using force legitimizes the use of force.
Sure, well, certainly, but
Yeah, but
again, the phrase from power is from which all authority is derived. That literally is the truth of it. The government is only the government because it's a centralized monopoly of force upon the population.
Oh, no, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that if you're attempting to accomplish long-term changes, then simply defaulting to revolution probably isn't going to do much.
Well, you're never
By
you're never going to
revolution-
succeed with long-term changes. Look, it only takes the first generation dying out for the rust and corruption and rot to set into any system. It doesn't matter what system it is. The first generation is the idealist generation. They are the people who know exactly what they want out of in this instance, government. You know, you can also use this for companies. Like you can see that there's companies who were in the family and then they left the family and they were still pretty good. And then the next generation of workers came in and they just fucked it up because they didn't approach the application of the business. They don't approach the application of the government the same way as the people who invented it did.
It only takes 3 generations to completely fuck it.
Yeah, literally. And
sometimes not even.
The problem is that you can never have a long-term solution because you're never going to be able to predict what someone 3 generations from now is going to think, feel, and do in reaction to, you know, some whatever edict you put in place. Like, say, you know, you have a amendment to the Bill of Rights that says you won't infringe upon, you know, say some rights no matter what period, except the next generation of people coming in don't view the restriction of that right as an infringement because it's helping people, so it's not infringing. Yeah,
well, and it's not just that.
Yeah.
Right. You also got to there's lots of situations that your law simply cannot be prepared for because of technological alterations. Right. The founding fathers couldn't imagine. They couldn't imagine phones. They couldn't imagine cell phones. They couldn't imagine computers. They can't imagine right. There's so many things our law is not equipped to deal with because there's no way in hell they would have ever been able to conceptualize those things, and our law is
Um,
therefore not built to accommodate them.
Okay, so
No, but
assuming we're talking about the actual thing we're talking about being the Second Amendment,
Yeah.
they
No,
had
no,
things
no.
like the
I'm not talking about the Second Amendment. I'm
okay,
ta- I'm talking about things like copyright laws. I'm talking
Yeah.
about things like
Okay,
video
but the
sharing.
thing is,
I'm
though, is
talking
that
about the
I thought that was
copyright
an
law.
allusion
But hold
to
on, the
the
copyright laws were not created in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights.
no.
No.
Copyright laws were later put in place through the inheritance of the British patent system.
Yes.
And yes, they were not able to
Fine.
keep
I
up
shouldn't
with
have
the
said the
proliferation of
founding
technology.
fathers. My
Yes.
point is that a system was put in place that later technology was not in any way, the
Sure.
people who made the system were not in
Right.
any way capable of
Comprehending what it could
conceptualizing
become.
how
Yeah.
that system would work, right?
Right, but
At some point,
that's
we're
what
going
I'm
to
saying
have
though is
yes.
the this is where the whole negative versus positive rights thing exists, and in that copyright law is a positive law. It's a guarantee against others. Whereas a negative right such as the freedom of speech is a guarantee from others. In where you're saying that no one else is able to act upon you to prevent you from speaking.
Yes.
And why that law works way better than, say, the copyright law is because it's very clear and plain about what exactly it is, and it's also not depending on a current interpretation of technology to exist. Copyright
Yes.
law was invented in a time period, in a culture, in a place, with technology at hand, and that was all they could comprehend, so that's what they based the law off of. But the freedom of speech is based off of the idea that someone has the right to speak their opinions to other people. And
And this is the really important part, and not be limited by the government because of that.
yes. Yes.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. So to circle this back to fan fiction, because I should probably do that before I have to dip
Yes.
out. Kaz, I hope you enjoyed the most recent chapter.
Oh yeah,
And
it was good.
Sneaky,
Lu Yinghua or Yu Linghua, I can't really fucking remember what comes first in his name, the L or the Y. And I definitely fucking enjoy him way more as a character than I do those other two, and I want more like interactions between him and the main cast.
I'm still just waiting for more of that story to be written because I am absolutely going to enjoy it.
I got you, man. I think we're on like chapter 30 something now, like 36 with the small Omakis.
Mm,
Yeah, Lu is the dynasty name, Lu.
yeah.
While Yinghua, of course, I have a terrible accent and my allergies are acting
Mm.
up again, but
How
Yinghua
dare
is
you?
his personal name.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest.
Huh?
I could never remember where there was Lu or Yu as the fucking first one. That's the thing. I kept getting those mixed up.
It's fine. Yinghua, I think, is actually a garment name. I don't
Mm,
remember what his real name is, but that's basically think of it as that like the official government name
mm. Hey,
versus like a personal name type
you're
deal.
gonna write.
Right.
You're gonna write. For some reason, I don't know why, but when I read that and I read you, what you wrote about his immense talent and his family trying to like either being jealous or trying to basically be carried by his immense talent, and then taken by the Chinese champion, all I could think was fuck. She's a Christmas cake fucking raising her own husband.
Kind of, sort
Jesus
of, yeah, in
Christ.
canon. So to answer, Yinghua is that, well, to use the children's parlance, glazed in Campione. He is
Mm,
explicitly the Chinese King Arthur. That is
yeah.
the tier he is at as like a 13-year-old kid.
Mm,
And he is strong enough that Lu Hao of all the Campione considered him a worthy disciple, not a
mm,
yeah, he could be. He has potential. No, this kid will inherit my teachings.
mm,
Which is something she explicitly said could never work with another Campione because they're too willful and will simply discard the teachings they once they no longer need them. Uh,
mm,
but she needs someone on the tier of a Campione. So this is a normal mortal with no divine blood, no special magic, King Arthur tier, straight out the box.
Mm.
And what I wanted
Bro
to
hit the
show,
grid.
by the way, with his family, that's not his family trying to coast. They're trying to rescue him. His family were basically sending their greatest warriors to get their asses beat like 3 years straight just to see if Lu Hao would take one of the grown adults as a disciple instead of this kid.
Uh,
And he doesn't understand it. He literally cannot grok that because he grew up in a cultivator sect, which
Mm.
is not as bad as some of the stories out there about cultivators, but that's because Lu Hao is actually pretty nice as far as cultivators go.
mm.
But no, that was just an attempt to establish that even if this is a crossover setting, there are still normal human beings out there that are just that scary. And also, Cao Cao was that stupidly OP
Yeah.
in canon for DxD.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
he was.
to
Where he didn't really
get
need
off
to
my
be.
pick,
Yeah.
Like, he didn't really deserve to be.
No.
well, he was just DxD Sasuke. Um, to get off my fic though, Sneaky, thank you for indulging me.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I do appreciate it. And I think I think I mentioned this before, but I'm interested in what your takes on ideas would have been if you had written them, because I know that was your initial hope. Your initial hope was make this into how do we raise the bar, not just how do we dunk on it for being so low, but
Oh
how do
yeah,
we
yeah, sure. I
encourage
mean,
others?
I mean, I'll dunk plenty on stories, and I'll talk about if I think I can make them better. But I mean, like I said, very often and multiple times throughout the years, is that there is just some ideas that you just can't work. Like there's
Mm.
no amount of effort or time you could put in to make it work, to make it work. And it's like the 15-year thing. The 15-year thing only works because that was the only requirement. If it's 15 years and Harry Potter has to be the minister, I wouldn't know how to fucking do that at all, no matter what, whether
No.
it was a slice of life novella or whatever, because it's just
Does
okay. Maybe it's maybe
Yeah,
as a one shot you could fucking do like, oh, Harry Potter takes his kid to work or some shit like, but like that'd be so generic and so meaningless in terms of narrative that there's no point in writing it.
well, you end up having to make it a non-factor because the journey to get to that point is so complex that you cannot depict it without it simply dominating what you're writing. And
Exactly.
at
Yeah.
that point, there's no point in writing it.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, it's like, ideas like, oh, The Conduit, like this fucking story here, drama horror. Oh, guess what, guys? Full Metal Brotherhood, except actually it's Infamous. Infamous happens.
Ugh.
God, no.
By the way, it's not marked off as a crossover.
Wait, Infamous or Prototype?
Infamous.
Infamous.
Oh no.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's just there is
I don't know
no
why
way.
you act as if one was better than the other. They were both shit. Sign.
There's no way
Kiss
to
my ass.
reforge that, right? There's no way I can take this idea and make it into something interesting
Hmm.
without.
there's no way you could balance it. One side would
Yeah.
have to dominate, and
The other.
you can't
And no
you
offense,
can't
but
make it equal parts.
Infamous powers would probably dominate alchemy.
It
Well,
would
Yeah.
sort of more or less,
well,
yeah. I mean, if you had like Earth-based Infamous powers, because I mean, like lightning powers in Infamous only worked because of the modern electrical system.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you had Earth-based powers in Infamous, style conduit, of you're able to eat people's life force and shit. Yeah, sure, you could have maybe a short story about Ed and Al hunting down this new, alchemical abomination. Maybe it's a homunculi or some shit, or some poor, it ends up being some poor sap who, got basically a cursed object and it like grew into them or some shit and turned them into a people eater, Claymore style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh god,
just
Claymore.
go.
Such a
It's
good
full
fucking anime.
Kabbalah. It's nonsensical dark magic. You don't need to explain it more than that.
Yeah, and the whole point, it's gonna be about a fucking novella in length, and it's just them. They're gonna hunt it down. They're gonna fight it. They're gonna lose initially. They're gonna learn more about it, explain it to the audience. and then they're gonna have a big final battle where they're gonna come up with some sort of idea and they're gonna beat it. And that's pretty much all you could get out of that idea. You're not going to be able to get some sort of big, long thing out of it. You're not going to be able to get a drama horror story out of it. There's not going to be any fucking horror in this sort of story. Like, that's how you could rescue it. But like I said, that's not reforging the idea. That's taking inspiration from someone's dog shit idea, removing basically everything from it, and then trying to make a spiritual successor to it using the world. So there's just some ideas you can't fucking salvage. So I don't really see much of a point in trying to sit there and trying to salvage absolute dog shit ideas. Because again, also, a lot of these ideas are the same fucking shit over and over again. I am a self-insert. Here's my cheat power. I got a harem. Okay, good for you. That's boring as shit. You probably wrote it wrong. You're missing spelling here. The gamer system is broken. Your story is going to die in 5 or 6 chapters because in about 5 or 6 chapters, you're going to realize that your character grew too many numbers. You can't grow everyone else's numbers. And now you have to do more numbers and numbers, and you just go, oh shit, my brain is burning. It's melting. I'm out. I'm done. I'm not going to write any more of this story. And that's how all of them go.
Shit, I made my character too overpowered, so I now got to give nonsense power-ups to the villains so that there's an actual fucking story.
Yeah, there's nothing I can say without just repeating myself endlessly at some points as well. It's like some of these I can say, I can build off of, I can reforge. Some of these I can get inspiration by and talk about. But a lot of these stories, they're just dog shit stories. They're just generic stories. Everyone and their mother has thought of one of these stories. There's no real point in talking about it over and over again beyond making fun of it, because at the end of the day, people are going to write them anyway. They're not going to listen to me if I try and offer constructive criticism, because 99% of people are going to hear the things I say, and they're going to say, oh, well, I won't do that. I'll be better than him. But why I mock people? Because mockery makes people do things. Constructive criticism doesn't make people do things unless they were already willing to do them. But mockery breaks through that because people don't like being mocked.
Yeah. It either breaks through them or they double down, and if they double down, you just drop the fic. But if it actually
if they double down, I get to mock them more, turn them into a clown for everyone else to see, and turn them into an objective lesson as to why you don't do it. So either way, I win.
Well,
it's
before
just
I go off, just one mea culpa then. I am very much guilty of sometimes giving villains new powers. Because sometimes I get too into things and I'm going, wouldn't this be cool if?
And that's perfectly fine. It's just there's a line between, oh no, Harry Potter has unlocked Super Saiyan.
I can give you a fucking example just right now with Dark Wolf Shiro. He gave the Celestial whatever to one of his new characters who's the son of Newt Scamander. And it was like, oh shit, the villains can't really hold up even now with the bare minimum that he's gotten. By the way, I've given escaped Death Eaters from Azkaban the ancient powers from Hogwarts Legacy, because otherwise he'd just steamroll them. He literally did that in his latest fic for Celestial Teacher or whatever it is called.
Jesus.
And that's why. See, that's why I always post mocking reviews at Dark Wolf Shiro, because some of his stories are perfectly serviceable. And then some of his stories, you just sit there and go, why the fuck why?
Yeah. Like, for no reason, seemingly no reason other than the fact to give him a villain, he gave them fucking the ancient powers from Hogwarts Legacy.
Right,
and
as far as what I was saying,
it's just so Bellatrix can't be captured, so that he's our OC character.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to, whatever. But to my point is, it's more along the lines of, just because Harry Potter gets, say, Super Saiyan form, doesn't mean you need to give Voldemort a Gundam.
Yeah.
And you should probably never do that.
Yeah. But it's fine if you go, oh, wouldn't it be cool if the bad guy had this power? That's totally fine, and is completely different from,
Or
oh no, Harry Potter achieved Super Saiyan. I need to give Voldemort an arbitrary power up now so he can still be a relevant villain.
or you go, I'm gonna have the villain do this because technically, like, I've thought of it, and it's something that his powers could, like, theoretically do. He just never showed it in canon.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah, like doing that is
in my
fine
Game
if
of Thrones fic,
You just have to be careful to not Aragon yourself.
yeah.
I wanted to have the Night's King start basically corpse crafting, and I had this idea that to get through the wall, he would simply start fusing the bodies of mammoths and giants to create some horrific amalgamation of limbs, and then just
I'm gonna
climb
be
over
honest.
it.
Does the Night King show any sort of necromancy other than raising fucking the dead? And even that's more
Yes,
using
in-
like they get frozen, and then it's like the ice is controlling their bodies. And
So the
cold.
Night's King in the books is the semi-mythological figure, which is where the Night King comes from in the show.
Yeah,
And he was a normal mortal who was basically
I know that.
fell in
The
love.
Children of the Forest
Mhm.
fucking created him, didn't they?
No.
Yes.
He
Oh,
fell in
really?
love with a White Walker, who in the books
Oh.
are these basically ice elves. And
Oh.
Yeah.
she turned him into some kind of half human, half White Walker abomination. And he had a number of powers. He had necromancy, mind control, and he could control animals that were still living, or at the very least, I think ice spiders. And
The ice spiders.
I-
He had to for regular animals. They had to die. Just to be
Yeah.
clear, the
yeah,
actual show of
Mhm.
the show was ironically much lower fantasy than the actual books
yeah, no,
because
in the
the
books,
actual
magic's everywhere.
yeah, well, the books it's magic everywhere, right? The red whatever they are, I forget whatever the red
The
Red
Red Priest?
witches, red priests.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, the red priest.
the red
Yeah, the Red
priest
Priest.
the red priests were also capable were literally capable of casting resurrection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
You
not
see
just
that
Red
once in
Priests
the books.
either.
I mean, in this show.
Well,
In the book.
You
no, it
also
was
had-
less
No,
resurrection
that
and more
was-
equivalent exchange, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let me rephrase that. They were fully capable of circumventing death with
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
minimum of negative effects on the person who died.
Yes.
You also had pyromancy-based teleportation,
Yes.
neuromancers that could fly, outright demon summoning, not just
True.
like shadow babies, but actual demon summoning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shadows, yeah.
Yeah.
Not just that. Miri Mazdur actually was conducting a demon summoning.
Oh, okay.
In Drogo's tent. That's actually what she did. She literally summoned and made a pact with a demon. Also, when Varys was castrated, the witch that castrated him literally summoned a demon using
With
his
his balls.
manhood because Varys is probably a Blackfire, and the Blood of Kings has incredible magical potential.
Jesus.
I'm sorry, was that too much?
No. But anyway,
Ugh.
so as far as final advice to impart on you on that, Undying Scarab taught me a lot of things when it comes to that.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, we didn't plan for her to scale beyond control. The original idea we approached Undying Scarab with was Taylor learns to be a necromancer, but unfortunately, we had a lot of moments where we said, wouldn't it be cool if she used her power that she currently has in a cool new way that is completely believable within the limits of her current power? But what that
was
resulted
even
in...
Tito.
Yeah, but what that resulted in was, well, she got stronger. A lot stronger. And
yeah. Don't worry,
when-
all of WoW is getting power scaled as well. So
yeah,
you guys-
I know. But what I'm
yeah.
saying is, and what my advice is when it comes to this, is it's totally fine if you just want to make your character stronger because they're using their existing power set in a creative way. But you have to do one of two things. You either have to accept that the ceiling of your story is raised, or you have to get rid of it. You have to nix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, here's my problem: is in A Song of Ice and Fire, right now Westeros is in a hard-coded bad end state.
Yeah.
Extreme TLDR, the standing armies of the continent have been killed like twice over. There are 3 different foreign invasions, and you have no point whatsoever in the north
3.
that's capable of stopping.
Oh, right, 3. I
Um,
was trying to think 3, and then I just remembered
Yeah.
Daenerys and the Dothraki and her army, the Golden Company and the fake Aegon, which is implied to be a Blackfire son of that
Yes.
cheese merchant, and the actual Night King is technically, I mean, he's technically of the north, but it still kind of counts as
I mean,
foreign,
you also have
And the-
Rylord, who's trying to invade, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on top of that, you have Euron Greyjoy, who's probably going to like conduct a mass sacrifice. You
Cthulhu.
also have the fact that Jon hasn't been resurrected in the books and hasn't in any of the previews, if I remember correctly. The White Walkers have the hybrids using Craster's children, I think. The White Walkers are coming. Literally, no one but the Wildlings knows or believes in them, knows about or believes in them. None of the armies in the South are capable of uniting because the Martells, for some reason, got to hold the idiot ball. It was their turn.
Well, okay, but
And
that's just Martin being completely incapable of
Of
not
writing.
writing a completely just ridiculous lay epic. Oh my god, it's so big, it's so real. Attempt at a story. I have a really low opinion of Martin's writing. I have a really low opinion of Martin as a writer.
To be
just
fair,
to finish up then.
before Winds of Winter, we've gotten updates on 3 fucking ancient works.
Yeah,
We've got
anyway,
Mozart, Epic
anyway,
of Gilgamesh,
letting
and
him
who was the
finish.
most recent one?
Letting him finish.
Dracula.
Oh, sorry.
To
Dracula,
finish
yeah.
very, very quickly. Canon is in a loose state. There is no track in canon that I believe believably would resolve the problems as presented.
Yes.
And so what I wanted to do is I specifically wanted to write a character that manages to achieve at least a semi-negotiated ceasefire and gets the Seven Kingdoms to actually unify and then go fight the White Walkers. Specifically, the main character has their role to play. They're doing their main character stuff, but an army needs an army to put in check. And as part of that, though, I realized that if there's an army just sitting on the wall, the Night Walkers just won't invade. They just won't. They will just wait for the Seven Kingdoms to butcher each other.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go, hey, he's a necromancer. We know that the White Walkers are actually over invading in like Ib and Ashai as well. So what if we just have him do some flesh crafting? Because flesh crafting is a thing over there. And what if they fuse like a giant's corpse to a mammoth's corpse to create this like undead centaur as an unliving siege weapon? And so I started trying to hint at that.
Sure.
And I got some pushback on it, not much, but some. And I was just when I have discussed the idea, the response has been, are you escalating beyond the setting because you feel like you need to, or because you feel like it would improve the story? And I want to say partly because I've lost confidence in the idea, just because of how it ended up going. I just wanted to say way back when that I feel like I was guilty of kind of sort of giving Sauron a lightsaber, so to speak.
No, it's really
Um,
not a lightsaber. Like I said, that is again more of a situation where it's a technically by the limits of the world, feasible power up that a character could show. But that's what I'm saying is that when you do put these sorts of power ups in, even if they are technically possible, even if they are, fully no bullshitium, able to be done, should you do it? And that's a question you have to answer yourself because you either have to accept the ceiling being raised, of, okay, well, this is now a thing going forward. You need to keep in mind whenever it comes to anything that happens. So, giant flesh golems of hundreds of corpses are now on the table, sort of thing, right? So, you have to keep in mind the consequences of your actions. And if you don't like the theoretical direction it could go in, nix it and don't put it into the story. Just don't bring it up. Don't mention it. Don't hint at it. Just be like, okay, it would be cool. It does make sense, but it just raises the narrative ceiling too much. We can't do it.
Yeah.
The problem with that, though, is how do a bunch of ice zombies with no special abilities manage to fight off a small army of dragons?
They don't.
They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. At which point, that whole thing just
Arrogance.
gets truncated.
Arrogance, because it's
Like
not
I
like
said,
they don't have. Yeah.
You have to be careful to not Aragon yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the anticlimactic ending is fine. You don't need a epic battle of 5 armies to close out a story. Sometimes you can just have the audience enjoy the success of a king who united the nations, took the fight to the White Walkers, beat them, saved the day, restored balance to the world, and everyone was hunky-dory for, until the guy had kids and then he died. And then the whole shit would start again because there's no longer a threat to everyone. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is the short-term moment.
The point of the story is we beat it, we won, we stopped the big evil, and more importantly, the big evil will not return. That's the important thing.
For now.
Well, I mean,
Well,
no,
no,
the next big evil is, because, what it is with Song of Ice and Fire, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my interpretation of it, is that the White Walker from the other and Rylor with his Red Priests are effectively two sides of the same coin. One's fucking stillness, one's consumption. With the White Walkers dead, what they would probably end up having is too much summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The burning summers replace the freezing winters.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to go fight a fire god.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
Rahil or whatever.
So, the current evil is defeated. The current problem is solved through the use of wits and charisma and manipulation and force of arms. You succeeded. You won the day. The audience gets to cheer for the hero. You don't need the epic battle to have the cinematic ending. The anticlimactic ending sometimes is the cinematic ending of looking upon your works and feeling satisfaction.
Like, take
Okay,
the ending.
Ozymandias.
Take the ending of the fucking Hobbit movies. It is anticlimactic as fuck because it's literally just Gandalf and fucking Bilbo just sitting there after the end of it, and then he goes back to the Shire. That's not like a big bang ending, but it's still a fucking great ending.
Yeah. But that's the entire point,
Well,
right?
no.
Honestly, I would actually say
that...
Lord of the Rings is an interesting mix, specifically because the anti-climacticism of the actual narrative of which is the ring being taken by the hobbits into Mordor is being juxtaposed with the climactic battle that is occurring around them, effectively. Not literally around them, but narratively around them.
And all of that came to a climax at that battle when they tossed the ring in, and then everything after that is just wrap up, which is not bad.
Yeah, no, it's not bad, and it's a very interesting way of you doing it because it does have the climactic big battle, but the narrative, how the narrative portrays it, is that the big battle isn't important. What is important is the small anticlimactic moment where two people face fears, mortality, determination, loyalty to each other, and the fallible nature of living creatures.
See, that's just
That's the narrative
actually
important.
it was because Sauron, and this is explained in the books in great detail, actually believed Aragorn had the One Ring, and that's why he was so confident in the Battle of the Pass, or I'm sorry, the Battle of the Gates, is because he thought that Aragorn had fallen to the
Had-
power of the ring and was arrogantly coming to challenge him rather than mastering the ring first.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and the whole point of that was because Sauron assumed that he would be mono-focused on the battle and would be less likely to catch Sam and Frodo. Sam and Frodo only made it through um
Well,
is it Minas Morgul with the Witch King? I
Uh,
think
Minas Tirith? Not Minas Tirith.
Minas
Minas Morgul.
Tirith.
Morgul, yeah,
Yeah.
it is Minas Morgul, yeah.
he explicitly, even in the book, only makes it through Minas Morgul because the Witch King, when he just for a moment senses the One Ring, calls out to it, and when Frodo doesn't succumb to the power, goes, "Oh, there's no way anyone wouldn't have responded to my challenge. Anyone who's strong enough to claim the One Ring would, of course, come to defy me and rise to claim my place." Um, like that's one of the big points of the story is that Sauron and
Well,
Sauron's lieutenants are so given to power that they cannot comprehend the idea that someone would reject it.
right, exactly.
Even
And
for a
on
moment.
top of that, I mean, even Peter Jackson did a really
mm,
nice little touch, even if he didn't go into that large detail with the Battle of the Gates, is the undercurrent and kind of pointed out moment is we don't actually have to go fight. We can just stand at these gates and keep Sauron's attention. And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is that we stand up to evil.
yeah.
And so that's why he charges. Because the point wasn't that they could win. The point wasn't that they didn't need to fight. The point was that they stood up to evil actively, not passively.
Yeah.
Well, and then I do need to be clear, right? They were like, we need to keep him so totally focused on us that
Right, but
There's
the
no
the dialogue that was displayed even in the movies is what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
they were like, we could just stand here. He would be probably focused on us, and everyone was like, yes, you're right, but if
But
us
this is when
fighting
the
evil
last
will
alliance is
distract
made.
him more, then I'll take a 1% increased chance of him paying more attention to us and us
Yeah.
possibly dying than us
Yeah.
just standing here and hoping.
Yeah.
And
And,
that
of
that
course,
it
he was.
undermines the climactic cinematic quality of the battle because it is shifting the narrative away from the epic battle to a
Mm,
very real human moment occurring both before the battle with the humans and with the hobbits.
That's
yeah.
actually one of the things that I want to talk about. I hated the ending that of Peter Jackson's Hobbit. First of all, he added a third movie that totally didn't need to be there. The Hobbit would have made
Yeah.
a great, like, if you just followed the Hobbit book, it would have made a great 2-movie book.
Mm,
But
But
the
the problem
five
is
battle.
the
that's the
five
problem.
battle.
He made the Battle of Five Armies. He did not put the original start to the Battle of Five Armies is not some glorious epic look at all of these armies. It is a sad, pathetic, tragic waste brought upon by greed, and the only reason it
Mm,
becomes anything but is because they are not so far gone in the midst of their greed that they cannot recognize there is a greater opponent and the value in working together. That's one of the things that the
Mm-hmm.
movie misses out on so hard. The movie doesn't give you anywhere near enough time to appreciate how far gone 9 of the 12 dwarves are
Right.
and how deeply they have fallen into their greed, and how really the only person who remains unconcerned with their greed and is trying to keep things from going to shit is this dumpy little hobbit
Yeah.
who, again, as Sneaky said, the whole reason the Battle of Five Armies happens is because Bilbo actively stands up against the evil, the greed. He takes the big shiny rock that he knows is the problem, and he's like, fuck it. I will accept being hated and the villain and hunted and possibly killed for the 2% chance I can take this shiny rock away and get people to pull their head out of their ass.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Peter Jackson he got it in Lord of the Rings and he somehow just missed it in The Hobbit.
I honestly, I think
blame
it was
Studio
intentional with The
Internet.
Hobbit. I think when it came to Lord of the Rings, he wanted to make a cinematic experience to a well-loved book series that's the core of all fantasy. And in opposition with The Hobbit, he kind of wanted to do The Hobbit justice, but also at the same time, um, he's got a lot of moving parts around him now. Because
Yeah.
back when he was Peter Jackson of Lord of the Rings, he wasn't really a big name.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
nobody, mostly.
The man had to accept a Peter Jackson King Kong video game, which was really fucking good, but he was not a big name when that happened.
Yeah, like he wasn't a big name. He wasn't Peter Jackson yet. He was just, he's like, yeah, the director, Peter Jackson. He does big cool things sometimes. And when it came to The Hobbit, he's got a lot more moving parts around him now. There's a lot more pressure from various sources now. He's not as invested anymore now. There's a lot of things that change between the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit for Peter Jackson. So
yeah,
but
Yeah.
point being is what I'm trying to say with all of this is don't try and force the epic battle to justify the army. Don't try and increase the ceiling because you feel you need to somehow create reasons to why an army would attack a wall even though they don't have the ability to do so. At the end of the day, people are stupid.
Yeah.
A large majority of people are stupid, and even people in power are stupid. They'll feel pride, they'll feel greed, they'll feel confidence, overconfidence. You can have them prepare, like you could even do a whole fake out thing of like, oh, they all line up at the wall and they're waiting for the White Walkers to show up, and then finally a runner shows up and he's like, yeah, they just fucking circumvented the wall. They went through the fucking Dragonlands or some bullshit, They just went around the wall. They pulled to Germany. You pulled to France.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh no.
So you don't need to force the ceiling to increase to force the late epic battle, because whenever you increase the ceiling, you don't how to best to put this? When you increase the ceiling, unless you increase the ceiling deliberately, knowing what precisely you are going to end up with the ceiling being increased, and how that will affect everyone in the story, you are often going to end up writing yourself into a corner, Aragon style. Because individually, oh, dragons have soul stones. That's kind of cool. Yeah, sure. Dragon soul stones exist beyond the dragon. The soul stone can leave the dragon, and the dragon will still be alive. But if the dragon dies, they go to the soul stone's still alive. Okay, cool. Age equals magical power. Okay. All of these soul stones are super fucking old, so they have a whole shit ton of magical power. Okay. Oh, by the way, Galbatorix is also really old and has the literal control of the entire continent nearly, so he can just devote massive amounts of resources to finally finding where these dragon stones are. Okay. He's, because of his magical might, is able to force all these dragon stones to be enslaved by him. Okay, well, yeah, now there's a problem. You know,
Mm.
the author talked about this, where he accidentally made Galbatorix into a person who was unbeatable because he over time seeded things that he thought was cool that were reasonable inside of the world of magic that he created and the systems that he had running, and he never really contradicted those systems. I want to be clear here, with every addition he added, he never contradicted the previous systems, really. The only real contradiction was him redefining the magic system to be dragons have chaos magic and they're able to do magic because fuck you, while meanwhile everyone else doesn't have fuck you magic and has to use the ancient language to control the magical phenomena, because a even older race than everyone else went out and created the ancient language to control the magical phenomena. And so that was really the only retcon he did, but even that wasn't a retcon because he was hinting that as early as Saphira turning Brahm's grave into diamond.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
so,
I got you, man. Well,
yeah,
thank you for the advice. I'm gonna go take care of the cat.
You do
He's
that.
mewling. Thanks, man. No, and
Yep.
thank y'all for having me on. As always, it's been a pleasure.
Of course, yeah, take care.
Oh, good.
Always fun.
But yeah, so this is why I like the podcast sessions on Friday, because we get to go extra long and when people show up, we'll have a good time. We
Yeah.
get to talk about things that aren't fan fiction, like this garbage. I mean, honestly, the Full Metal Alchemist section is pretty disappointing overall because it's just a lot of female writers. It's a lot of female writers who get all rosy cheeked about Ed or Roy.
Or Ed and Roy.
No. Shockingly, I was about to say, shockingly, there isn't a lot of yaoi here. And as I scroll down, immediately, Ed times Al.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm just gonna go get my fucking dinner.
Yeah, you do that.
Fucking.
I
hate this section and I hate these people.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Not as many Fujos.
No, not as many Fujos, but I mean, it's a popular section.
Yeah.
They're at least more focused on Riza and Roy and Ed and Winry because they are two relationships. Well, no, but they're two relationships that were shown in the show. So, obviously they will attract a greater majority of the attention. But, I mean, I see a very frequent thing here. I don't know if this is a recent thing or if this has always been an issue for the Full Metal Alchemist section, because I never read Full Metal Alchemist stories. I didn't really see Full Metal Alchemist as a series that needed expanding upon by the fandom. There were things that could have been done better or handled better, or different ways the developments could have occurred, but not really, though, right? Like, there were, but the story didn't end on a terrible note. Like, it's not like it's fucking Harry Potter that ended where like 1/3 of the British population died.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there's the mostly contained monster a day nature that a majority of Full Metal Alchemist ran on, where it was really only overarching plot started occurring in the latter half, or maybe latter third of the story. So at first it was really just, hey guys, we heard about possible Philosopher's Stone, and then they came, they fought the monster. Turns out Philosopher's Stone was fake. They learned some sort of moral lesson, and then they moved on to the next Philosopher's Stone event where they repeated those steps again. And it wasn't. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying it's not really prone to allowing for a fanfic to competently try and reinterpret a interesting story out. DxD, there's countless flaws that everyone and their mother wants to try and fix. Ruby, there's countless flaws everyone and their mother wants to try and fix. Naruto, Harry Potter, they're all interesting stories with interesting worlds with power that can be leveraged that people think they can try and fix. And what it really is, though, is that Full Metal Alchemist has, to me, the right amount of power, the right amount of completion, the right amount of development in it that I don't really feel a need to look for fanfics. And what I'm seeing here is that it's really hard for a lot of people to write Full Metal Alchemist fanfics as well. A lot of these stories I'm seeing are just like dying at, 2, 3 chapters. I mean, yeah, sure, you have like shit like this, 44 chapters, 500,000 words, featuring female OC.
Because of course.
Of course. But a lot of these stories are short. A lot of these stories die early. Even back in the day when I tried looking at the Full Metal section, there wasn't a lot of interesting things going on in it because, frankly, the fandom doesn't lend itself to it, in my opinion.
Not wrong.
Yeah. And honestly, and this is another one of those scenarios where crossovers are also equally as uninteresting.
Yeah.
The power scaling for alchemy from FMA isn't that impressive comparatively to other series that they could show up in. And if you try to have a character from another series end up in FMA, then you kind of run into the same problem as the non-crossover section does, in where it's not really interesting. Because you either have to speed run and go straight to fighting the Führer in a couple chapters because a large majority of the story doesn't really matter. Like, a large majority of Full Metal Alchemist is about the personal character growth and adventures of the Elric brothers. And it's really, again, only the latter, like, third where it actually starts to form a cohesive, meta-narrative where they have to fight the bad guy who's trying to kill the entire country. And so if you ever, like, cross a character, like, Harry Potter shows up. Well, there's not a real big reason for Harry Potter to end up doing the first 2/3 of the story that was mainly dedicated to growing the characterization of Ed and Al. Because a large majority of those events were only attractive to Ed and Al specifically because there was reports of the Philosopher's Stone which they were desperately seeking for Al's benefit. So, you'll have to skip a large portion of the story, and if you skip a large portion of the story, your character ends up, preempting a lot of the bad things that occur in the story, which means a lot of the tension is removed from the story, which means they're blindsided by the character's powers in the story, and then they win. That's like, okay, well, If we skip all of the character development that a large portion of the story is based off of, then the story is going to be quite short. And if we try and make it longer, it's going to become boring and stupid. So, Full Metal Alchemist section, disappointing. I give it a 3 out of 2 stars.
3 out of 2?
Yeah.
That's an exceptionally high score there.
Talking about crossovers, have I ever shared the worst crossover I've ever found and actually fully read to you guys?
No. What would that be?
It is Bleach Code Geass.
Honestly, I couldn't give a shit because I don't really find Code Geass very interesting as a story.
Yeah,
Honestly, the
no,
hell with
it's
Bleach.
Code Geass characters in the Bleach world. I just posted it
Alright.
in the chat.
I mean, unfortunately, Britain's canon to Bleach, so
Yeah. Yeah. You miss it's that Bleach happens in the Britannia. It's like a fusion where Bleach does happen in Britannia and in the world like that.
that's kind of
But
lame.
jeez, yeah, it is.
Or
It is
Yeah.
so
research
bad.
Monk and then
And
dropping
because
it.
because he made Lelouch basically solve everything with Aizen, they had to bring in a OC basically character or side character that's barely ever used and give him a time manipulation Zenpakuto just to make him a challenge. And then they brought up a whole bunch of OC hollows that are OC in name only because you can tell who they are just on the descriptions. Like for some reason, one is Itachi, another is fucking fuck, who was it? I can't remember. Anyway,
God
it was
damn
so
it.
bad. And then Hell plays a bigger role as well. It was so
Of
shit.
course it did.
And honestly, that's what it is at the end of the day. Is that writing fanfics expose a lot of the cracks in um like Hell sort of makes sense
Mm,
in the scope of Bleach, but it also doesn't. If you
yeah.
actually take the full knowledge of Bleach lore into account, and
hmm
so it if you try and make a story that's increasing the focus on Hell because you've accidentally solved or intentionally solved one of the masterminds of Bleach that
hmm
caused the majority of the problem, then you're going to end up in a situation where you are going to have to start inventing a whole lot of shit.
hmm
And you're going to Aragon yourself. And that's why a lot of fanfic ends up in a really bad spot. These authors just fucking Aragon themselves. Whether they Aragon themselves out of trying to do it better, or they Aragon themselves out of ignorance, they still Aragon themselves. And a lot of fandoms aren't very good for this. I mean, you have some of the older books are a lot more robust. Uh, series like Lord of the Rings,
mm
series like the Dresden Files, series
Yeah.
like Drizzt. Um, well, a lot more robust because there's a lot more written content on them, and the author has to be a lot more consistent
Mm.
because they are publishing content for it still. But when all you really have to do is come up with an overarching enemy of the day, first they fight the Soul Society, then they fight the Hollows, then they fight the Quincy, and that's it.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's all good. And there's not really a lot of concern. You don't have to focus too much time on Hueco Mundo. Like, you don't have to really, beyond explaining why the Hollows are stronger and how they're getting stronger to a, rough degree, and then having Ichigo beat them. You don't really need to
Yeah.
explain why, for some fucking reason, there's a castle in the wastelands. Why the
Mhm.
wastelands are sand, which I think is because of Yamato. I vaguely recalling something about that. But the point being, though, is you don't need to put a spotlight on the world you're visiting too much in Bleach because you're only going to be visiting it for so long, and by the
Mhm.
time you're done, the brief spotlight on the world was just enough to keep people interested in the next fight that Ichigo is having.
Yeah.
And so when someone tries to go back and actually take a magnifying glass to it, what you thought was 1080p graphics turns out to be 240.
Yeah.
And it turns out that those trees in the distance, well, they were 3 polygons, not trees.
Yeah.
So, and that's the case for a lot of anime because that's just how a lot of anime is structured. They only have so many seasons. They only have so much screen time. They only have so much plot. They can't flesh out the world in ways that need to be done, especially if you are going to be writing something about it.
Mm.
Games kind of get a little bit more reliable because they have to make, if it's not a fucking virtual light novel, then the game kind of has to have some level of tolerance within it to allow for player action to direct
Yeah.
the character to a certain extent,
Mm.
which allows for more consistency and a little bit more detail being sprinkled into the world. Um, but I mean, if we go here, anime and manga, Naruto, Inuyasha, Bleach, Fairy Tail, Yu-Gi-Oh. Naruto and
Yeah.
Inuyasha are the two biggest by a far margin. Naruto ridiculously big by a far even farther margin than any other margin in the fucking section. And
Mm.
the reason why that is because Naruto fleshed out the world just enough for you to get a 240p resolution of it all. And, it created the city states. It created a idea of an economy. It created the conflicts that could occur. It created
Mm.
a whole bunch of plot hooks that people can operate with and on and through. That's
Yeah.
why it's such a popular section to write fan fiction for. I mean, Familiar of Zero was a popular section back in the day to write fanfics for because of how
Mm.
easy it was to do the crossover.
Mm.
If we go in crossover section, pretty
Because you
sure
could
we're
have
gonna find.
anyone be basically that. That's why
Yeah,
it was
there it
so
is.
easy.
Familiar of Zero.
Yeah.
It was
That
so easy.
because you can have anyone be someone. It doesn't have to be fucking the Minato was his fucking
Yeah,
name. I think.
Minato.
I know it's been so
Naito.
Yeah,
long.
whatever
Yeah,
his
because it's
fucking.
been so long.
Yeah.
And there was literally stories of just single chapters of, hey, this person's getting summoned. Now this next one, hey, here's how it go if this person was summoned. And those got popular because it was like, yeah, that's kind of interesting, but I wish there was a full story of it. So I'm going to keep reading in case you do make one.
Yeah, and so it's a case where um these sections got popular. Like Ruby is one of the most popular, beats Inuyasha because Inuyasha
Mm.
doesn't make for good crossovers, but Ruby does.
Yeah.
There's a give and take to these sections. The amount of people that started watching it, and how far their reach was, how compatible they are with writing fan fiction too, etc., etc., etc. There's factors upon factors that actually make the results of the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
But um, Naruto is a anime that is unique in the aspect that it actually left a lot of plot hooks lying around and just enough detail that people had a way of constructing their version of how they think the world works in Naruto,
Mm.
without needing to fabricate things whole cloth. I mean, they did need to fabricate things quite significantly, but they weren't doing it completely out of the box. And, as we all know, fanfic writers are not professional
Mm.
writers for the most part. And as we all know, fanfic writers are typically pretty fucking stupid and
Yeah.
not knowledgeable about a lot of things. So when they need to whole cloth create a world, I mean, we see this with Wild Bow quite easily. When they need to whole cloth create a world, the world's dog shit. It makes no fucking sense. The economy makes no sense. The travel time makes no sense. The conflicts that occur don't make any sense. And it's because the author doesn't know that information. They just know nations next to each other fight. How are nations made? I don't know. They just are. These are the borders. What do you mean those are weird borders? No, they're just the borders, bro. Um, you know, they don't know a lot of things. They don't understand a lot of things. And so when a fanfic author makes something, if they have something to work off of, if they're just taking down the fucking wallpaper, they're putting new wallpaper on, it's a lot easier for them mentally,
Mm.
writing wise, however you want to spin it, to write a story that is just about the wallpaper being changed. rather than demolishing the whole fucking house and rebuilding it from scratch to be better, air quotes. Because those always fall. You know, they always.
I have returned. What
Ooh.
dumb
Hello.
shit's happening now?
I'm just talking
talking-
about fan fiction and why certain stories are popular for crossovers and why they're popular for non-crossovers and how we ended up in a
Yeah.
position where some fandoms are just 100% dog shit stories because they just frankly are not interesting to write for or are impossible to write for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
Story number 46. Jesus. But yeah, so I ranted a lot this time around. Maybe we'll get to a fanfic someday. Naruto Ruby. Okay, Jesus Christ, I have to see how bad this is.
What is it?
Joshin's Rose.
Excuse
no.
you?
Sometimes
Ruby
all
supposed
it
to be hate
takes.
on?
Yes, sometimes all it
Oh.
takes is a 1 in unknown chance for everything to change. Sometimes all it takes is a 1 in unknown chance. What you're saying is it sometimes takes a 1 in 1 chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, like man, I am an armchair writer, and this sounds deep. 101.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A chance meeting between two people who were never meant to meet. No, not never meant to meet. Literally couldn't meet. There is no possible way for Hidan to ever meet Ruby Rose. It's not they were never meant to meet. It's not that Hidan was in fucking the wastes of Vacuo this entire time and Ruby just never went to the wastes of Vacuo. They were just never meant to meet. No, they didn't exist.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know, Sneaky. That feels a little. I don't know. It just seems like you're trying a little hard to there. Like they could have
Yeah.
existed in the,
Yeah.
the deserts of Vacuo. You don't know. I mean, we do know.
It's existentialist.
Yeah.
I'll give you an existentialist fucking. How's that?
Oh,
Wait, what?
spicy. Spicy.
Oh, hold on there, Atin. Getting sign excited. So let's see how Remnant handles a brand new immortal being added to the chessboard. One who thinks flipping the board is a valid and fun strategy. Okay, so small problem with Hidan's immortality is that Hidan lost limbs
And they don't grow back.
and they don't grow back. They bleed forever. Yet technically speaking, if he won the battle and then eventually, got his arm back and then slapped his arm back on and then like wrapped it in glue for a while and then yeah, he would naturally re-heal the arm back on eventually. But half of why Hidan's arms could be chopped off on a whim is because he has both chakra to bullshitium that, and also Kazaku who can sew him back together to add to the other half of the bullshitium. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no Kazaku, and if you turn him into hamburger, he's pretty much fucked.
he's a very
He doesn't-
sentient hamburger now.
Yeah, he doesn't heal fast. He just can't be killed.
Yeah,
Also, don't forget. Hidan, like the way he was beat was being put in a fucking hole in pieces.
yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on top of that,
Oh,
so
no. Speak
Ruby
of
Rose, now an immortal. Oh yeah, she goes to fight Salem. Salem casts I'm a fire and my laser. Ruby Rose is disintegrated and is now a very sentient pile of dust.
Mm-hmm.
And even if she doesn't, congratulations. You have an immortal fighting an immortal. Do you know
And
what
well, no,
happens?
not just
You're
that.
gonna be
It's
a while.
oh man, Ruby hits Salem with the reflection damage curse. Oh, what's she gonna do? Oh, she stabs her heart, and then Salem laughs at her because it doesn't matter because she has a
She's
better
immortal.
version of Hidan's
Yeah.
immortality. I don't. That's not flipping the chessboard. That's not changing anything.
We've covered stuff like this before. Salem is immortal. If you want to change the story of Ruby, you need to insert people who have functional ways to overcome immortality. You can insert Shiro because he has something like Rule Breaker. Something like Rule Breaker is allowed to stab an
He also
immortal
has
and kill them.
art.
Yes, right? Or you can put in Shiki because they have mystic eyes of death perception and can see when things end.
Well,
A D&D wizard.
specifically, you would need either the Noble Phantasm version of Shiki, or you would need Caps Lock Shiki, because
Yes.
the other Shikis aren't capable of inflicting death upon something, but the Noble version
Yes.
of him and the Caps Lock.
No, they
No,
all can.
baseline Shiki could
They all
could
do that.
it.
That's
No,
innate
no.
to every version of
No,
Shiki.
it's
No.
it's not
What
that
I'm
it's
saying
no.
is that he can see the death lines and he can activate the death lines in all of his forms, but
But
he can't. Baseline Shiki can't inflict conceptual death upon something like
No.
Ort.
No,
Yeah,
he needs
but
to
he
be,
doesn't
he needs
need
to expand his
conceptual
eyes.
death
He
for
needs to
Salem.
use them. No, he needs to use them
No,
more.
he
needs to
does need
expand his eyes. He needs
conceptual
to
death for
strengthen them.
Salem because Salem can't
No,
be killed.
no, baseline Shiki can do it too. He just has to take off the glasses. He can't turn it off.
Is that what
That's
it
what
was?
glasses are for. Yeah,
Oh,
the
right. Yeah,
glasses,
he
the
can't turn it
glasses
off.
block it for him. So even
R-
baseline Shiki is capable of doing it with just a pocket knife
Right,
and no
but
glasses.
as far as I'm aware, he only sees what is possible.
Mm,
No, he sees death lines. If he cuts
no,
the line, the thing
Right,
dies.
but the
No,
death
so
line
he can.
exists
The thing is,
because the
no.
object
So
itself is
yeah.
capable of dying.
The thing is, he'd be able to kill. He'd be able to kill Salem probably pretty easily, but it'd be like killing Arcuid, where if he did it, she'd just eventually respawn. To kill non-conceptual things and to things that like you can't physically see, they need to use their eyes more and like actually advance it. Like both in Kuro Kyokai, female Shiki had to do that to escape the tower.
Well, I would
down
say
to the
that yeah,
thing.
the one that I was thinking of was
Male
female
one couldn't
Shiki,
kill
but either
Arcuid
of
at
these
the
two-
start. Even
That's what I'm
without his
saying.
fucking
Is
eyes.
that when I say inflict conceptual death, I don't mean
Yeah.
the normal method of his death eyes, where he sees methods of them dying
Yeah.
and then he's able to activate that death upon them. I'm saying
No,
he's
that's
inventing death lines to cut
Yeah.
on them.
It's more that his eyes advance enough to be able to see the non-physical.
The
no,
Shiki
it's
that
not.
can
No,
kill
you
servants.
no. Okay, so the problem is that the mystic death eyes at the level that every Shiki can use, male, female, and other forms in between. If they can conceptualize the death, they see the lines. Even if you tell them, well, that's an immortal being, doesn't matter. Male Shiki has killed an immortal being before, and she just came back in agony that she quickly grew used to. And female would probably look at you like you're stupid and do it anyways.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
female also has the void in her, so that could also
Actually,
be
it
the
very much
equalizer
reminds
if
me.
you
It very
Okay.
much
want to
reminds me
guarantee
of
it. Void Shiki.
Right, but-
Byron
right,
but
Bell's
that- do it.
actually.
That's what I'm saying,
That's
though.
so
Is
specific.
My
That
Right,
one
but
is so
is
specific.
simply that my point was simply that you have to insert a character who is in some capacity capable of circumventing immortality. Shit, man,
Right.
you could insert a level 20 D&D wizard who
Right.
who uses wish and goes, "I wish you could die."
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying, though.
And then
Is
they
that's
cast
what I'm
you.
saying. There's a certain degree of conceptual death they need to be able to perform to get around the immortality that characters like Salem has.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
her immortality is literally she can't die. It's not that her body can stop functioning, because it can. She stabbed
She can't
herself in the
die.
heart, she fell unconscious, and then got back up.
Yeah. She just
Yes.
can't die.
You gotta dig into some real bullshit, like a certain weapon from Blaze Blue.
Mm.
Its power is literally severing the concept of time, so even a truly immortal being can be killed with that,
Right.
because they now exist outside of time and they just kind of pop, essentially,
Mm.
Yeah.
because
If
they
you wanted
can't
to get
handle that.
if you wanted to get really extra and metaphysical with it, you could even take a character like shit, what was the Kingdoms of Amalur? Yeah, that was it. Because
Oh
that
yeah, yeah.
character died and does not possess a fate and is therefore outside of any fated
Fate severing.
interactions.
Yeah, fate severing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
that game, that was fun.
I like
Um,
the idea of
Uh,
that.
neat.
Yeah.
was
Listen,
neat.
that is a game that had perfectly fine gameplay. It had a fantastic story that was let down by
Yeah.
a mediocre idea of gameplay,
Mm.
frankly.
Well,
Oh,
the
that's a
implementation of
shame.
the mechanics were terrible because the original idea for Kingdom Mauler was an MMO style gameplay. And then you can when you play it, you can very clearly
Oh, yeah.
feel the MMO.
Even
it.
most of the even the generic quests you run into where you're like, "Ooh, that's an MMO." But yeah,
The
and like
travel time between zones. Oh my
oh,
god,
the travel
it's
Yeah.
time.
terrible.
Oh, the complete lack of amount. Um, you can, in fact, if you look around some of the zones, you can even see where they 100% planned to set up a fucking flying ass WoW mount,
Yeah.
like the WoW flying fast travel. But anyway, right? Like mechanically, I love that idea because it, honestly, that's a game where I wish it had like an Iron Man mode,
Mm-hmm.
right? To represent the fact that you don't get
Mm.
special protection. You're
No.
just a person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the only special thing you've got is I don't care who you are. I don't care what your fate is.
I'm not paying my
I can
taxes.
kill you, you die.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a very cool idea. And that would definitely work against Salem, specifically because her fate is literally that she can't die.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's if you don't include a character like that, it becomes a very problem-prone series to write in.
Yeah.
Ruby.
Yeah.
It's
With
kind of why I always
Naruto,
feel disappointed. every time.
Naruto has somewhat of the same problem with the Madara question, but there's just so many fucking ways to gain power in Naruto that it's almost not even
Yeah.
a concern, as long as you do it right. But anyway, point being is that Josh and Ruby doesn't mean diddly shit to the series and will not affect anything at all because Salem will easily be able to just one-shot Ruby and will not be affected by anything Ruby could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How it is. No one's point of view. So again, author doesn't understand point of views. Author doesn't understand his own idea. Author doesn't understand what out of character means. Because the author's like, oh, sorry guys, just keep in mind Ruby's gonna be out of character here. It's like, okay, yes, obviously, if she decided to follow Joshin's teachings, she would be out of character. But if you developed her character with the audience to explain why she's following Joshin's teachings, she wouldn't be out of fucking character. She would be in character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that requires work.
That requires
Uh-huh.
knowing what it means. It's very often that these authors are like, oh, well, the character doesn't act exactly like they are in canon. That means they're out of character. It's like, no, you fucking simpleton.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway. The multiverse was a strange concept and idea of infinite possibilities. not really a strange concept. An idea of different universes is where you where changes can be so minute that they're barely different from one another, yet that also means that they are other universes that are on opposite end of spectrum. No, it doesn't mean that. The fact that there exists universes that are barely changes does not mean therefore there are universes that have massive changes. The fact that it's a multiverse containing every permutation of existence means that it would have universes that have massive changes in them. Ugh. This is how I think smart people sound 101.
Yep.
Changes that are so statically one in infinite that the fact they happened at all was a mystery in of itself. No, if you literally have infinite universes where every single thing, every permutation of every atom ever happened, the fact that something happened in one of them is expected, not surprising. If you are, however, viewing it from the perspective of a universe that didn't have that event happen, yes, it would be surprising. But if you are viewing it from the no one point of view, from a third-party perspective of the idea of a multiverse, you wouldn't be surprised by anything. Because if the multiverse is every permutation of everything ever, then everything ever has to have had happened. That would be like, I lit my house on fire, and then I'm gonna be shocked by my house being on fire. It's like, yes, you lit your fucking house on fire.
Oh no, how could this happen?
I just, God, I hate dumb people. This story follows one of those insane possibilities. Again, it's not insane. It is a very sane possibility because it is a taking place in a world where every single thing ever could have taken place did. It's a very sane, logical possibility, not an insane possibility. Now, however, if you started this story by saying, out there are versions of the world that are changes. Some of them are small changes. Some of them are big changes. We are going to follow one of the big changes. A change so insane that you barely can believe it ever even happened or was possible in the first place. That changes the context. But when you start the context with everything ever has happened everywhere, well, then why is it a surprise that something happened somewhere?
Yeah, look, some of these people aren't exactly intelligent. Like, I really don't have much else to say. It's a fundamental problem because, like, you can't just go into this is the infinite multiverse, everything can happen. Okay, fine, go for it. You need to be a little more selective about what you're going to bother describing in the multiverse, and recognize that the more ridiculous a change you make, if you're going to talk about the infinite wonder of the multiverse, you got to be like, this is definitely one of the weirder ones and requires a remarkable series of coincidences. Here's the
Yeah,
coincidences. Here's
exactly,
how it
yeah.
happened.
You gotta line
Why
it
you
up
could
better.
just skip all that bullshit?
Well, yeah, but if you want to talk about the multiverse, you have to line it up in a very specific fashion to the reader. You can't be like, we're going to talk about the multiverse. It's going to be a thing that has everything happen ever in it. Isn't it crazy that this one thing happened in it? No. If it has everything, then everything happened.
Yeah.
Yes, you could skip it, but they didn't. So here we are.
He should have.
Yes, obviously. Fucking hell, what was it? What was I about to say? It was, oh, that's what it was. I'm reading a DxD story right now, where the author just openly was like, yeah, so I read DxD like 6 years ago, guys. I don't remember all the plot of it. If I get something wrong in the plot of DxD, then it's an AU. It's my AU.
Also, go fuck yourself because I don't want to follow canon. Simple as
Yeah.
that.
You know what?
Also-
That's fair.
Also,
I have
canon's
more
lame.
respect for that. I have more respect for that. Like, yeah, so I remember the idea. I'm not bothered to try. So just deal with it. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
you know
I
what? I'll
can't be
respect
fucked
that.
to try. I'm gonna write what I remember. If it's wrong, then it's my AU. And then someone responded with, author, are you fucking kidding me? Are you really gonna sit here and claim that every time you get something wrong that it's actually correct because it's just part of your AU? And he just
Yes.
posts the fucking chat yes. In response.
I mean, I gotta give props to that. That's a level of like, you know what? I have no.
Yeah,
fucks
no,
to give.
I did that normally. If this was a normal, situation, I totally would have been on the side of, I'm gonna fucking drop this story. The author clearly doesn't give a shit. But because of the way he was just like, yeah, look, guys, I don't fucking care. I'm just writing for some fun here. If I get it wrong, fuck it, it's my AU. I was like, all right, props, respect.
I gotta. It's like it's one thing to just be like an author punch out his ass to be just like, here's my AU. If you don't like, don't read. Blah blah blah. It's like, listen, I have an idea. I'm doing this for fun. If I get it wrong, oh well.
Yeah, because
Okay,
I
you know
mean,
what?
it's like
I'll
normal.
give
It's
respect.
like. Yeah, because like normally it's
Here's
like
my
the reason
AU.
why the
Yeah.
AU is occurring is because the author wants to power up their character, so they're giving their character really stupid power ups, and then people are like, author, that's not how that power works in this series, and the author's like, well, it's my AU, that's how I say it works. Like that's how it normally goes.
Mm-hmm.
This author's just like, yeah, so turns out that family doesn't have that power, but in my AU they do because I'm not gonna be fucked to fix it.
It's refreshing honesty for like.
Based, yeah.
Yeah, listen, when someone does that, I'm like, all right, you know what? I respect that.
It doesn't help that
I'm gonna
so many
start
people
doing
just
that
try
with
too
the
hard for that
Tanya Star
shit.
Wars story.
Hey,
Yeah, guys, look, hey, I know the Mandalorian thing has a massive rabbit hole of all these intricate plots and shit. In this universe, just didn't
Fuck
happen.
it.
Get
Yeah.
fucked over it.
Just didn't happen.
Nah. But that's not canon. Oh wait, it's not canon. All right, I'm right. Fuck
It's
canon.
my AU.
Guys, turns
Yeah.
out I'm writing a fanfic. Sign, you gotta fucking use that on someone.
I'll do
Next time someone fucking complains about, oh, you didn't get this one part right from this one Star Wars book put out in 1993, just be like, yeah, sorry, my bad, didn't happen in this universe. Turns out I'm writing a fanfic, guys.
Turns out I'm writing a fanfic.
Moving
Yeah.
on.
I thought I was writing another Star Wars book, turns out I'm writing a fanfic.
People are still mad about female Obi-Wan.
Oh, they're so fucking seething about it. I thought it was funny.
I'll be honest. When you were like, oh, we're gonna put female Obi-Wan in there, I was like, you know what? We're just gonna let Sign have the horny because here's the fun thing about Obi-Wan. As long as it's still Obi-Wan, it's funny. And yes, I happen to agree with Sign that if Obi-Wan had tits, she probably would have been a lot more. She probably would have been a flirty little shitbag.
I can make
Oh,
her
yes.
worse.
100% worse.
She
no.
will be worse.
Still gonna seduce just as many women as Ken and Obi-Wan did.
Absolute
yeah.
gremlin.
Completely different reason. I mean,
This
that's the thing,
dubious
right?
creature.
Here's the thing, right? If you go and if you've read the young Obi-Wan books, when he's hanging out, when Qui-Gon is teaching him, he is a fucking gremlin. He's less of
Yes.
a gremlin, but he's still a fucking gremlin.
Exactly.
Even before Obi-Wan's teaching him, he's like that when he's trying to get Obi-Wan's fucking attention.
Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon's. Oh yeah, no.
Qui-Gon.
He was a gremlin. He was a gremlin to get Qui-Gon's attention. Obi-Wan was headed for the fucking Agricorps before he fucking gremlined his way into being
It's
Qui-Gon's
the
apprentice.
fucking Tard meme, the Tard Wrangler meme where you have the fucking leash.
Oh, and
Obi-Wan's the
yes.
fucking Tard being wrangled.
it's how he's so good at doing it with fucking Anakin because he's used to it from himself.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah,
Yes.
this is
he's
how
just,
I
he's
would have
just
dealt with the past.
reapplying.
It's
Yeah,
like,
every single
yeah,
time Anakin does
Anakin,
something,
mm,
Obi-Wan
mm.
stops for a moment and goes, "How would I wrangle myself when I do this? Okay, this."
How did
And
Qui-Gon
then
wrangle
immediately
me?
has the thought
No,
of,
not even
oh
Qui-Gon.
God,
It's like,
I know how
all right,
Qui-Gon
so
felt.
would
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have done this? Wait, I would have been worse. So this is how I've got to do it.
Oh,
no,
God.
let's be clear. There was a certain point that Anakin reached where Obi-Wan just had to go, fuck, I can't do anything worse.
Okay, Sign. I'm going to do this for you. So I want you
Yeah.
to be ready with it when the time comes. I am going to get ChatGPT to manufacture a long, multi-paragraph statement that can be easily summarized with, "Sorry guys, turns out I'm writing a fanfic, and I need you to
God.
thread mark it as an informational post whenever the next time, like, whenever someone really tries to start some shit about you getting something wrong in Star Wars, I'm going to give this to you, and you're just gonna post it, thread mark it as informational, and watch everyone fucking seethe and mauled."
Yeah, I'll fucking do it.
Excellent.
Turns out I'm writing a fanfic, guys. My apologies.
God.
Yeah, just wait for the responses of guys. Why would you do that? That's a fucking mistake.
Upon further review and deep introspection of everyone's opinions, I have decided to
found them to
become
be wrong.
worse.
Listen, half the fun of this story is going to be when Tanya has an experimental light cruiser crewed by Mandalorians, and it's just, how can we fuck up this naval battle? We're gonna
Step
make
1, play
Anakin-
Freebird.
Ramming speed.
Yeah. We're going
But
to make
ma'am-
Anakin putting tanks on an asteroid look like casual hour.
But ma'am, this is
What
going to be
crimes?
impossible to do. Hold on, let me just put on this music video. This music. Wait,
I don't
why?
honestly.
Freebird.
I don't know. I feel like the power of Freebird flows
No.
through Metal Gear Tanya.
No,
You know,
no. But the thing is, you can't forget the Force is sentient. Once it hears Freebird, it's going to make it happen.
exactly.
Yes.
But no,
Force eyes
it just Tanya's Outer Heaven is like peak Freebird moments because it has the fucking airplane scene of just like, oh, we're just flying an airplane here. Suddenly, a lolly fucking drop kicks her way through the cockpit, just shoots everyone in the airplane, kidnaps a guy, and jumps back out.
Yeah?
And it's like, what the fuck?
Just
Listen,
posted up to
there's
Raw Road, so I'm waiting for approval on
so
that.
many dumb things on there. Like, there's so many dumb things you can get with Tanya, that do in fact just get enhanced by Freebird.
Oh, speaking of which, Tanya Outer Heaven, I know that chapter is coming out soon. When will it hit QQ?
Which one? The war? I'm not the newest.
24.
That's already on.
Oh, it's already out there? Damn, we have to go fucking.
Yeah.
I want to see people's either is anyone flipping shit about the I'm exactly where I want to be, or are they just
had
mild
a few.
molding redditors? Okay, mild molding redditors. All right, fortunate.
There's such a thing as a Redditor mildly molding.
Yes, it's
wait.
their passive state.
Stein, I just realized we need to put Tanya
Yes.
in the ultimate war crime machine, the Gundam. She's she's
Oh,
perfect.
God.
She's a small child. She loves war crimes.
is?
She should have her Gundam.
He's not wrong.
And
I
they
just
just
Australia-
leave those
got
things
done saying-
unlocked.
Australia will die.
I just
I'll
got
take
done
it.
saying she would never have a basilisk because she's getting a communication orb, blasters, a collection of lightsabers, and eventually most of her magic back, all of which effectively turn her into a human-shaped starfighter. And you
No,
want to give
as-
her a Gundam.
Yes, as
Oh,
an
I
Australian,
think she'd
as
be
an Australian
hilarious in
and
the Gundam
Australia
universe.
possibly dying, I must ask you to give her a Gundam.
Ma'am, that
God.
post, memes and shit post, is a little bit too close. I don't like how close that is.
Is that the yeah?
What got posted?
Athens.
I'm in this photo and I don't appreciate it.
Oh, I gotta
Ugh.
look at this now.
Yes.
Did you fucking post that?
I have caught the entire chat in my area of effect, centered on myself.
Indeed.
Test
To
fire.
whom it may concern, dear grid coordinates.
Listen, if you haven't seen the guy who does, listen, I hate YouTube Shorts, but there is one specific channel, Punky Doodles, that I follow because most of his stuff is fantastic. And if you haven't seen him doing a wizard casting fireball set to the tune of Firework, my god, that's hilarious.
Oh
Wait,
yeah,
is
that
that
one.
the
Yeah, that one.
is
Yeah,
that the one where it's like looks hand drawn and it
Yes,
has
yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
a
that
D&D
one.
one,
Yeah.
or it's the
The
two,
various
three,
wizard
four.
voiceovers. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
Listen, normally I hate short content, but I'm like, okay, you know what? That's pretty funny. That along with the ones of
Noble Knight's pretty funny as well.
I declare a wizard war.
the noble one's pretty funny, but honestly, I think
Yeah.
some of my favorites is the vaguely goth-looking girl talking to the other vaguely goth-looking girl. Wait, are all those hickeys from the guy you're dating? Yeah. Turns out
Oh,
he's a necromancer.
yeah, it's that the pun. Yeah,
It-
the pun girl.
Listen,
Yeah, the body
It's-
count.
infuriating.
I would
The pun.
cast. What's the fucking spell?
Testicular torsion.
No.
I would cast enlarged body.
Oh, no, that's
but
what it
your
was.
mother doesn't
I
feel
would
me.
cast repel wenches upon you, but it seems someone has beat me to it.
Do it. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Good shit. Good jokes. Yeah. But anyway, so the author has shown a fantastic incompetence when it comes to narrative control. It all starts with young girl, a 13-year-old girl to be exact, one Ruby Rose, who in this moment was standing before her mother's grave. It's like, oh, she was just standing on her mother's grave, rambling to herself. No, she was talking to her mom. I know you don't really understand the concept, author, but some people like to go to the grave of their deceased loved ones and pretend they're still there as they tell them about their day to soothe their stress and worries. I know you can't
sometimes they
fathom
like
that.
Yeah, we know. I know you can't
Mhm.
fathom the love of your parents.
I know you can't rotate an apple.
Such fatherless behavior.
Oof.
Motherless behavior. That's terrible.
But accurate.
Yeah, so she's like, yeah, so then Hidan shows up, starts screaming. Ruby somehow gets convinced by Hidan, and then, By the way, so not even gets convinced by Hidan. Hidan shows up. Ruby finds him. And finds just his head, apparently. Apparently, because it's just a detached head. Yeah, it's just a detached head. Just finds his head, right? And then time skip 2 years later. So we're not even going to get into how Hidan convinces Ruby to not throw his head away, why Ruby isn't panicking about a detached talking human head. We're not going to talk about any of these things that would immediately make the story harder to write, because the author is far too incompetent to write any of that.
No, Sneaky. No, he used the RT method. He did it all off screen.
It happened off screen, guys. He convinced her off screen. She converted to a new religion off screen.
Wow, this really is Ruby, isn't it? Is it canon?
It's so accurate to canon. She committed multiple war crimes off screen.
See, and you know what? That's why Tanya deserves a Gundam. The colony drop deserves to be on screen. Australia deserves it, and you ain't changing my mind.
I'm sorry, but the colony drop was inefficient.
I'm not trying to change your mind. You're right.
Yeah. Oh wait, do you not know? No, I want to be clear. Sign. Do you not know that canonically, 1 year war, the Zeon kicked off the 1 year war by dropping an orbital colony and obliterating Australia?
No, I'm aware of that and the other colony drops because there were more than one in actual Gundam. I'm talking about in Star Wars.
Attempted multiple. Oh, for that? Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That wasn't give Tanya a Gundam in Star Wars. That was put Tanya in the 1 year war.
Put Tanya in Gundam. Okay.
Oh, there are going to be 10 times the war crimes in the first month.
And
the war crimes.
Can't.
You know, I feel like a colony drop should
Here's the question.
Bright Noah is going to have a completely different set of child problems.
God, I would need to watch Gundam.
I'm gonna be honest. I think Bright Noah will be throwing hands a lot more often.
Wait. You're worried about having to watch Gundam. Why have you not watched Gundam already?
Because it's been something like 20 years since I watched OG Gundam.
Bro, you're 500 years old. You should have watched all anime by now.
I don't
Hey,
have
that's me.
I like how Sign's age just increases every single time we play.
Going back and watching OG Gundam is fantastic. Listen. OG Gundam, Zeta, Double Zeta. Those are all still fantastic.
I mean, well, first
G
half of
Gundam
Double Zeta is rough, but
yeah, G Gundam is funny. Don't take it seriously. You can just hard curve Wing. Just all of Wing.
I liked Wing. Dead silence.
I was about to say
the judgment. I hope you can feel
my opinions were made known the first time he admitted this. Have you seen After War X? Sign?
No.
Okay, that one absolutely worth a watch.
Last Gundam I started watching was Iron Blooded Orphans.
That's an excellent one. If you want Gundam,
you can stop after season 1 on that one. Season 2 is kind of samey in a not good way.
If you want OG Gundam but told worse, and with Bright Noah turned into 2 incompetent big boobed chicks, you can watch Seed.
I do like big titty chicks.
Yeah, we know.
And I partly watched Seed.
It's literally, we took Bright Noah, we made him worse, we split him into 2 women. By the way, you're gonna have the Fourth Reich fighting the Fifth Reich, and then the next version of Seed is the Fourth and the Fifth Reich still fighting each other, but also fighting the Sixth Reich. And then the last
no. Atin, the Fourth Reich were defeated. The Fifth Reich is now fighting the Sixth Reich, and then Freedom comes in, and now we're doing the Sixth versus the Seventh. Or no, sorry. The Seventh came up and decided to fight everyone.
And then whatever the most recent one is that where we finally got to the Eighth Reich, Max?
No, that was Freedom. We didn't. We didn't get past 7. I'm sure we're gonna find out that actually Freedom was 7.5.
Yes, we probably will.
Because they just announced a prequel anime.
Witch from Mercury is utterly unconnected from every other Gundam so far, and it's great. There's so much stuff in Witch from Mercury.
That's every
No.
Gundam that's not Universal Century, Atten.
Okay.
And you can't say it's unconnected
Isn't
because
Witch
it
from
takes
Mercury the Yuri Gundam?
Yeah, it's the Yuri Gundam that takes a fuck ton of design cues and story cues from just about every single Gundam prior. It
And it's
might be one of
fantastic.
the most connected, second only to Turn A, which attempted to make every Gundam from
Canon.
OG up to 95 canon, up to 96 canon in some way. Because it's like, oh yeah, the Universal Century was like 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And every century since is like a few thousand-year gap.
Yeah. The war crimes were prodigious. Earth is still intact. We aren't certain how.
War crimes,
It's a big
duh.
planet.
Earth is tough.
But yeah, listen, just the whole thing that Witch from Mercury is a great way to just go watch a single season of Gundam and have fun. The fights are great. The suit designs are great. There's there's actual character development. People don't hold the idiot ball. Or if they do
Unless
hold the
In a
idiot
unless
ball,
Gundam?
it's convenient.
hang on. If they do hold the idiot ball later on, they're allowed to drop the idiot ball. Mostly.
Mostly.
Like there's even a great I can't the scene with the jitter I can't talk about that, but it's a great scene because finally the safety features in Gundam functioned as safety features.
There are safety features?
Yes.
And then they
There
stop
are.
functioning as safety features.
Yes.
Yes. Well,
It's also got one of the best punches in all of Gundam.
oh, absolutely.
And
Listen,
Oh,
you
I
don't
know
need any
exactly what you mean.
context. You don't need any context for this sign to understand that this is amazing.
I will say
Yeah.
this. I think Witch from Mercury has my least favorite ending out of every Gundam I've seen, and I have absorbed every Gundam animated thing I could that wasn't lost to the sands of time because it was a convention exclusive in 2006 or something. It might have one of my least. You know what? I'll say it's my second least favorite because Double O still has the worst ending.
A double O. Oh my god, double O. I love double O, and double O makes me angry.
Double
Alright,
O's movie
sign.
was great until the last 20 minutes.
You're gonna take
Yeah,
a
I
minute
thought Double O was supposed to
44,
be good.
and you're gonna understand why everybody loves Choo Choo.
I click this window, I see Gura. I'm distracted. Okay, pink-haired girl.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that one. That was
Listen,
great.
the payoff is going to show up at the 15-second mark.
Yeah, give it a minute. It's got to load.
Yes, that one. Yes.
I love it so much because it's one of the few times we see someone get punched in Gundam and they don't punch back, they just fall. Because it was clean.
Motherfucker
shit.
goes down.
Eat shit.
Speaking of punching in media and how unlike other forms of media they do it right. In this form of media they did it wrong. So I've been watching Asmongold play Bellegarde.
Oh no.
Ugh, why?
Because I want to know how bad it is, but I don't want to buy it myself and then return it.
Yeah, that seems
That makes
fair
sense.
because I've now seen some of the gameplay and I didn't like that. I thought I was looking at a really weird version of Assassin's
mobile
Creed
game?
Mirage.
Oh yeah,
No,
that too.
because they copied the combat system that
Yeah.
AC RPG games started doing. Like,
Yeah.
I played through Mirage. It's a $20 game. It's not
Yeah.
bad. It was kind of a return to form. They still shoved the awful things about the RPG games into it, like skill points and the combat system.
Yeah,
I shouldn't be looking at a Dragon Age game, a game series I've never
it's so
touched,
fucking
and
on
think
the rails.
that looks familiar.
Yeah, it's so on the rails. It's so boring. The combat is lame. But that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the cinematics. So I watched some of the cinematics, and it was literally peak. I have never been in a fight before, but I've imagined me fighting my bullies a bunch, and this is how it looks. Like that, it is peak
Which game?
that. Dragon Age
Veilguard.
Veilguard.
You know what? I want to take a second to
Oh.
think about Veilguard. No, listen. Because listen, there's a bunch of people out there who were like, "Wah, it's woke, wah, DEI." First of all, okay, look, the
It is.
people screaming "Wah,
That's-
Dragon Age woke," like, no offense, they clearly hadn't played a Dragon Age. Even the first game was fairly woke.
No, not even.
No.
No.
Let me finish.
No. There was a major difference between having
There's a
gay
major set of
people.
differences. I fully agree. There's a major set of differences, but none of that has anything to do with why I didn't want Veilguard. The reason I didn't want Veilguard, despite the fact that I've played I played Origins, I played 2, I played Inquisition, is guess what? They said that they were dumbing down the combat, which I was
They did.
already not a
Massive.
fan of how much I was already not a fan of how much Inquisition dumbed down the combat.
And 2.
And even then, Inquisition wasn't that dumbed down, but I mean it was.
Well, Inquisition was more complicated than 2, and 2 was just fucking. Ugh.
There's a reason people don't like 2. But the thing that immediately made me go, without hesitation and without remorse, go, okay, Dragon Age is done for me as a series, was, hey guys, none of your choices are going to be relevant anymore.
Really, that's what did it for you. Because
What?
what did it for me is finding out that I'm not allowed to do anything about my companions. I can't select any of their abilities. I can't dictate them to go places.
Here's the thing. I hated all of those, but the fundamental reason that I put up with 2 being bad, and the reason that I put up with Inquisition, was because, credit to BioWare, they were doing a really good job of making your choices matter and
Sure.
continuing to make a video game with a coherent storyline, even when some people had wildly divergent choices.
Sure, but if I wanted no gameplay but my choices to matter, I would go replay season 1 of Walking Dead Tall Tale game.
Sure. But my
you know-
point was, I fundamentally enjoyed the story, and I enjoyed the continuous through line
Right,
that
yeah.
my games had,
Sure.
my
yeah.
story had in the Dragon Age series. So when I was told that narrative was being thrown out,
Yeah.
the last thread of interest I had in the universe was immediately removed, because I liked the through line of my story. Sure, sometimes I wasn't carrying my save over, but all of my important points were being hit, kept, notated, and had a payoff. Maybe it wasn't a
Sure.
huge payoff, but you had a payoff. And when they said, no, you're not getting that, I said, cool, you're not getting my money.
Right, but like I said though, like
That's fair.
the bigger fantasy to me, that and the reason why I played Dragon Age at all in the first place, was the party creation fantasy of you having full control or near full control of everything your party does, what spells they get, when they use them, their equipment, their choices, everything. And Origins did that hands down. 2 kind of did that. Inquisition was a little bit better about it. But with Veilguard, they were just like, your companions aren't your playthings. They're their own self-actualized people, so they're gonna do their thing. And I'm just like,
okay,
You can't
that's
take
great,
away their agency.
yeah, you
hey,
can't
guess
take
what?
away their
I
agency.
like playing the fucking rogue, so I really need to make sure that I really need to make sure that the
to
tank
fill
doesn't
the
need to damage.
gaps.
I just
Yeah,
need the
like,
tank
what
to
if
focus
I
on
don't want
aggro.
Alistair to tank? What if I want him to deal damage because I'm the tank, but I still want Alistair in my party?
Well, too
You know?
bad. Alistair's the tank, and he don't need no
The
DPS.
Alistair identifies as the tank.
Or what if I need them to sit back and not stand in the fire because I'm the wizard and I'm about to nuke everything in the room? I did not ask how big the room was. I said I'm casting
Well, you see,
fireball.
signed, they identify as charred broiled.
You see,
They're
that's,
going to
again,
when I'm done.
and again, this is why Evocation is the best wizard subclass, because I just get to go, I'm casting fireball. I won't hit my friends. Unless I goddamn feel
Sure.
like it.
Yeah, true.
To me, that's
but-
the most important stipulation on Evocation Wizard. You choose
I have
who or who
elected
is
to
not
hit you
affected.
with fireball.
Right? Nothing quite expresses your displeasure with the rogue fucking up your last stay in town quite like, okay, all of the enemies are taking 66 fireball damage, and so's the goddamn rogue.
Fuck you, rogue. But yeah.
Well,
Don't
rogue,
piss off the
I
orcs yet.
can dodge. Okay, then you take 33. Uncanny dodge. Fuck you.
Yeah.
No, that's still me. You're still gonna take what, 17? Yeah, 17
No,
off
if
uncanny
you
dodge.
if
Something
you
like that.
succeed, no, uncanny dodge in 5e at least is if you succeed
No, that's
the
evasion.
dexterity save.
That's evasion.
The 3.5 had one where there were like 3 levels. There was dodge, uncanny dodge, and then the last one. And the last one is you take 0 damage.
No, evasion doesn't exist in 5e, dude.
Yes, it
Uncanny
does.
dodge. No,
Then that must have been in
the
just
class
over.
trait that rogues and barbarians get that allow them to take half damage on dexterity saves is either half damage on a failed dexterity save or no damage on a succeeding dexterity save.
Yes.
Ah,
You
yeah,
get that
that's
as a 7th
uncanny
level.
dodge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's uncanny dodge. Yeah,
Um,
that's why I said.
It's no, that's not uncanny dodge. You're wrong. Uncanny dodge you get at the 5th level, which lets you reduce the damage of an attack. You get evasion at the
Oh, right,
7th
right,
level,
okay.
and evasion is just don't take damage if you pass the dex saving throw.
Yeah.
So which
And
one is
half
it that says you can't be surprised? Period.
That is barbarian. And
Yeah.
that's
No, rogue gets it.
alert.
Yeah.
No, it's
Rogue
no,
got
rogue
it
don't
in
get
3.5.
Rogue.
No.
Well, in 3.5, rogue might have gotten it, but they don't anymore
Yeah.
in 5e. Only barbarian gets it naturally in 5e, but you can take a perk in 5e that is called alert. That makes
Yeah.
it.
You can just take it, okay, as a feat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me, a perk.
But,
God, I hate 5e.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, meme review. We'll see you guys on Tuesday because there's